What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful.com. We are your destination for wrestling, MMA, boxing news, whatever it may be. We got it there for you. And we've got WrestleMania 36 Night 1. A very unique circumstance that we have here. But it is a circumstance nonetheless. And I got to say, I am very excited to talk about this show. I am very excited that we have the opportunity to cover the show. I want to say, first off, I don't think that a lot of these people should have been put in the position they are, but I'm very grateful that they made that risk and we were able to be entertained by WrestleMania. Let me go ahead and get the intros. To my, I guess it'd be your right, if you're looking at the screen, Mr. Warren Hayes. He is on the post-SmackDown show and the Wednesday Night War show. You can check him out at youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. To my left, Alex Pawlowski, former associate editor at Fightful.com, now hosts Sour Graps and is on the Wednesday Night War podcast as well. Alex, you got seniority here. Your first words about WrestleMania 36, Night 1.
You know how they always say, can they just build the whole plane out of the black box? Can they just build the whole WrestleMania out of the Boneyard match? That's what I want. I want just Boneyard match for 3 hours tomorrow. Just keep it going. Let's do this. More Metallica in my WrestleMania matches.
Reminder, guys, if you want to help us out, leave a thumbs up. If you're watching live on youtube.com/Fightful, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications. We are one of the leaders in breaking wrestling news in the world. We have post-show podcasts. We cover virtually every show on cable if you include our premium service that I'll tell you about a little bit later on. But we've got Mr. Warren Hayes here as well. And you know what? He or Alex or myself will answer your question or read your statement on the air if you donate a super chat live at youtube.com/Fightful. So go ahead and do that. Help us out a little bit. Warren, how do you feel right now?
Well, yeah, I'm also going to start off with an analogy, sort of like Alex did. When I was much more of a comic book reader, I was really into those what if comic books. And I feel that's kind of what we live tonight. What if we had an entire wrestling card, a big one, that happened in front of no one? How would that turn out? And it was an experience. I really think it's something ultimately we had to go through to get a better understanding of where, if this were ever to happen again, what should happen next? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities opening up. We're going to get into the nitty gritty, but as an experiment, this was fascinating.
It was. I'll take the super chat from Hannah Moore as a pretty good example. The Taker Styles match proved that they can do creative, fun, different things. That was so much more than I expected, and I loved it. So a few weeks ago, if you subscribe to FightfulSelect.com, that is our premium service. It's the most direct way to support us. We post exclusive news there almost every day. You got Alex reviewing Raw and SmackDown there. I'm doing exclusive news podcasts there, Q&As. I said that one of my WWE sources had told me right after WrestleMania got moved to the Performance Center that they were doing something outside the box and cool. And I was like, well, is it cool to Vince McMahon or is it just cool in general? I think we got the answer that it's cool in general. Because this leads me to a level of excitement for tomorrow night as well. Because you got Bray Wyatt and legitimate actor John Cena in a Firefly Funhouse match where this might be that way too. But make no mistake, there's no reason they should not have been doing this 3 years ago when Matt Hardy was there too. Throwback 27... I see your super chats, and we will get to them as each match happens, but another highlight of this show to me, which we'll tackle, he says, Braun winning has to set up 2 matches, The Fiend or Roman as their opponent. Wait till I tell you how I took in the Braun Strowman Goldberg match. I am very excited about that. Reminder, when you donate your super chat, we will get to them as we approach that segment. Sean Murray says it took a pandemic to make them get creative. In this aspect, yes, but also if this were in front of a crowd, Warren, I don't think they could have done the Undertaker styles like that because they have to please 70,000 people.
Well, remember when they tried to do that with the House of Horrors match? Because that was essentially it. There was a part that happened in the house effectively, and then they brought it back into the arena, which is necessary. You don't want to have paid a WrestleMania ticket to sit in the audience and watch a movie, essentially. That's not what you're there for. Yeah. Of course, they bring it back into the ring, and we all remember how that went down. Not necessarily the best outcome.
DJ Cass was not sold on this WrestleMania. He sends a super chat and says, let me go ahead and get this out of the way. I thought tonight's show was fine, but I don't ever need to see WrestleMania look like this ever again. If you mean by no fans, sure, that's not ideal. Nobody ever wants that. But I really, really enjoyed tonight's show. And not just that, Alex, but how many marathon WrestleManias have you and I covered? I think three of them have been marathons. And I was excited for tonight and stayed excited until we went on the air.
Yeah, I'll always take a tight 3.25 hours, 3 hours of WrestleMania like that. Moving on, like this. But the thing to me is like this is what a 3-hour Raw should be. Like it should be this entertaining. 3 hours, fill it with stuff, as opposed to 3 hours of mostly crap. This was fine. There were a lot of things in tonight's show that I thought were just like odd choices, lazy booking or whatever, but I would absolutely take tonight and what I assume will be tomorrow night split into 2 as opposed to an 8.5 hour extravaganza. Like I can't imagine sitting through one of those again.
Yeah, I completely get you there. Tim Traver talking about what WWE should do for some of their upcoming shows. He says they just should show some of their old matches from the 90s. So, I mean, they're already showing them from the 2000s, so I don't think we're that far off from that at all. Maddie B. Wrestling said, today was supposed to be the baby shower of my first newborn. Congratulations. He said, the show was made me forget how depressed I was for a few hours. Thank you, WWE, and you guys. Hopefully we get back to normal soon. Anakin says, still wish we had TakeOver, but this was a good sub. I thought so too, and I think that having a top-level NXT match on every Wednesday for a while is also a pretty good sub. But let's go ahead and get into this show because we got to talk about the matches at some point. Keep sending those super chats. When we get to the segment that you talk about, we will talk about those. Corey Graves and Rosenberg are on the pre-show. The highlight of this pre-show was the Miz and Morrison rap video in which Corey Graves said he loved. And when Rosenberg doubted him, Graves said to Peter Rosenberg, who is a host on Hot 97, what do you know about hip-hop music, Rosenberg? Other than that, I love the amalgamation of the America the Beautiful performances.
Yeah.
Chris Warren Band, conspicuous by their absent, R.I.P., but Stephanie McMahon welcomes us to WrestleMania. Now, Jeremy Lambert put together a compilation this week. Warren, were you surprised to not hear the term smiles on faces during this?
I really was. Because when I saw Stephanie McMahon appear, I was like, okay, there we go. It's buzzword central. Here we go. But it was fine. I don't know. It's Stephanie, and it's what she does. But yeah, there were no smiles on people's faces. Go figure.
Callum Williams says, showing Fightful some love. Love all the shows, guys. Keep it up. Thank you so much. I'll run through some of our shows soon enough. But Roman Reigns was still in this Mania intro.
Yep.
Yeah, and somebody asked on Super Chat, they said, or J.K. Schwal says, how does Warren feel that Roman's contract signing weeks ago was all for nothing? What good is that contract, Warren?
Well, once again, in fact, you know what? It just proves that contract signings are absolutely pointless and useless. They can sign. They make the matches before signing the contracts anyway, and then when they do sign the contract, the wrestlers pull out. Oh, I don't think I'm going to do the show. Okay, fine. What are they for? No, it's fine. But of course, this is all in jest because I support Roman's decision to not do this, considering his health, his issues. Of course, I supported it. I'm just playing the part.
Something that you and I have never actually been able to talk about, Warren. I wanted to get your take on this. Now, AJ and Undertaker, they signed the contract for the match, and then the next week, AJ changed what the match was to a boneyard match. Don't they have to then do a new contract signing? I mean, you got to get the boys in.
I think
legal on
MLW
this right
set
away.
up these contracts, and that's why they're not worth anything. That's what's going on.
That must be.
And
You're
please,
right.
Alex, if you put that out into the universe, it's going to happen. No, thank you. I've got enough. I don't want paperwork on my wrestling shows. Thank you very much.
The person also said, I hope Goldberg claims it's BS since he signed the contract for Roman.
That's true.
So I don't know if you all saw my tweet, but I don't know if there was something about it being a Saturday, because I haven't watched a WWE show at about 7-ish on a Saturday or a weekend in a long time. Like, Sundays just feel different to me. So I was ready during every package for it to go, are you ready? Are you ready for a good time? Then minutes later, we get another AC/DC track.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. I sound so much like the lead singer. We're probably getting hit with a copyright claim right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably getting hit with the copyright. We have gotten hit with one for the Booker T sample, because somebody who used that sample to remix the song like a year and a half ago has an auto claim for it. So I've had to fight those nonstop lately. But we get Gronk doing a pretty solid Gronk intro. Mojo Rawley joins him, but I was very shocked, Alex, at how little we saw Gronk.
Honestly, I thought they were going to replace Elias with Gronk.
Me too. So did I.
And have Gronk beat Corbin in like 15 seconds. Like, I was shocked when that didn't happen. So, yeah, I'm completely shocked that they had Gronk to stand up there to like, hey, everybody, I'm Gronk. I'm going to make a joke about how many times I have sex with ladies. Anyway, here's Mojo. Bye. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just a weird. He's the host, I guess. He's the host.
And I thought we were going to see more of him, because later on, R-Truth shows up and Gronk tries to win the 24/7 title. Is this technically his first match? Technically? Because Mojo thwarted him and then won it. But I thought we were going to get some follow-up there, Warren.
We're going to have to follow this one closely on Cage Match.
They don't put those on there. Unless their
well,
title changes, they only put them on there.
Well, there was a title change, so maybe it was a triple threat. Maybe it was a triple threat. We don't know. Well, listen, it was very interesting to me that they hyped up the arrival of John Krasinski tonight to the program to host, where he essentially just did the introductions behind those obnoxious shades and that dollar. You know, if it wasn't for his logo on it, I'm pretty sure it felt like he asked Mojo, hey, do you have a jacket for me, buddy? And yeah. Mojo just went like to the shit he was wearing like 3 years ago and pulled it out. And that was it. But it's also very classic WWE fare to really put emphasis on, hey, we're having this guy, and then barely use him. It was what it was. It's fine.
We get a super chat from Anakin saying, anyone else think the green screen looked bad tonight at the pre-show? Yeah, it looked real bad.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it looked just real lame, man. But we also see later on Paul Heyman cutting a promo on Drew McIntyre. I thought that was fair. You build up to the next night because, quite frankly, there's going to be a lot of people that watch this that wouldn't normally be watching this that are like, oh, wait, they're doing another one tomorrow, huh? And you got that covered.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to get all that stuff out of the way so we could get to the matches. Cesaro defeated Drew Gulak on the pre-show, and this match was quick, and it ruled. This is Cesaro's first ever singles match at a Mania besides the Battle Royal, Gulak's first Mania match ever, and I thought it was a good one. This one was a really good example, Warren, of the pace that we were about to see. Because you know what we didn't see a lot of? Slapping on a chin lock and sitting there for about 30, 40 seconds.
Which was kind of what I was expecting for the Baron Corbin match, and thankfully that didn't happen.
I thought it was going to happen in Becky and Shayna too.
And it didn't happen. No, it was fine. Look, I mean, I'm a hungry boy. I like me talented wrestlers wrestling with talent. So of course I look at this match and I'm like, why didn't this last a little longer? Why didn't we get a little more? So I'm a little, but that's okay, right? It's like P.T. Barnum said, it's always leave them wanting more. So I want more Drew Gulak. I want more Cesaro. And as a Drew Gulak fan, I'm kind of disappointed he didn't win. because he hasn't done anything of interest, or at least to solidify the fact that he's this player coach type character that they want him to be, giving Daniel Bryan tips to win matches, whereas he's losing right and left. But then again, it's typical WWE fare to bring in someone, give him like what looks to be a push, but then cool him down.
Well, I think Alex will be able to relate to this a little bit. Players aren't always the best, or coaches aren't always the best players, and vice versa. Some of the best coaches did not have successful careers, and I think that Daniel Bryan recognizes the value of Drew Gulak, and that's what I like. In the match, we saw some super great transitions early on. They slugged it out. Everybody was working snug tonight, and there were a lot of camera cuts early on. I didn't notice them as much later on, but like in the following match, I saw Kyrie really laying in stuff, and I'm like, you don't need cuts there. You can hear her making contact, and they had to because there's no crowds to cut to. There's no extra audio, so they had to make it sound like it hurt. And they went from strike to submission attempt, European uppercuts. And Alex, I think my favorite part was Cesaro couldn't win with a neutralizer, so he's like, you know what? I got something else. How about the UFO? We're going to bust that one out. And he does the UFO and wins it. I love this.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought the ending was kind of abrupt. Like,
sure.
Gulak looked great through the entire thing. Like, he was countering everything. Like, he looked like he was the actual technical whiz, like even out-dueling Cesaro, which we all know to be a great technical wrestler. And the UFO it was fun to see, but I was not expecting it to get the pinfall.
Sure.
Like that didn't look like a high impact maneuver at all. And so it was kind of weird to see Gulak lose to that particular thing. I like the psychology of him not being able to use the shoulder to get the neutralizer, but I thought maybe they were going to have him tap out to some kind of submission maneuver or something. I'm not sure.
There were about 4 odd finishes back to back, and I saw that Eloquent had mentioned that a little bit ago as well. He said hated the first 4 minutes or first 4 matches finish, especially Shane and Becky, but loved that they split to 2 nights. I'm really going to go in on some of these finishes and like explain the particular issues I have, because many of them should have been avoided. But this match was good. I thought Cole called the hell out of this match by himself.
Yep.
He was calling the moves, and you remember how good he was. And this was all post-production on that one, I'm pretty sure. So very excited about that. Rob Wilkins says, maybe with Gulak and Bryan, it will set them up to be a tag team. They can go after the titles. Storylines between Miz and Bryan are always good. That's another reason I don't dislike this, because Bryan's like, okay, well, maybe we need to go back to the drawing board, and Gulak's like, let's help each other. They seem to like working with each other right now, and I'm all for that. DJ Cass says, I really understand your guys' point of view. I've been watching WrestleMania for 12 years, and it just breaks my heart, but you guys are still awesome. Hey, I mean, ultimately, I didn't think of COVID-19 one time in 4 hours, and that's rare these days. So I was happy to be covering this, and I was real happy to cover this women's tag title match. Jeez, outside of the Del Rio spot. I'm just going to get that out of the way. They did the Del Rio spot. When somebody hangs on the ropes, it's stupid. It's stupid. Everything else I loved about this match, Alex. Jesus Christ. They were laying it in there. Asuka gets it to a ridiculous level with a crowd, without a crowd. I have like 2 other minor complaints. The camera cuts were real bad, including one after the purge where Nikki is going to pin Asuka, and they go 1, 2, and then there's this camera cut with obviously different audio where Kyrie lands. It's real weird, but there's some good spots, like the dive to the outside and Nikki firing up and ripping off her vest and doing a body press. There was the Asuka lock on Nikki, Twisted Bliss that broke that up, one of the best I've ever seen. The Kyrie spear, that ruled. Cole called a powerbomb and forearm a modified doomsday device. It is not, just because somebody is on somebody else's shoulders doesn't make that so, but Bliss pinned Zayn with the Twisted Bliss. Alex, how'd you feel about this one?
I mean, I thought the match quality was great. They did a great job of selling that it was Nikki who like kept them in it. Like she was fighting from underneath the entire time until Alexa got in and got the glory, of course. I'm still waiting for that whole thing to collapse under the weight of that whole thing. My only thing is that I feel like the Kabuki Warriors have been like especially Asuka, but them together have been one of the best acts on either brand. And I think that they've been outstanding. I think that the only reason that they haven't had put to good use of these tag titles is there's no competition in a tag division. And it's weird to have them say, okay, you haven't had a tag team title defense since December. Here's one out of the blue just because Alexa decides, hey, I want a title shot. And Nikki's like, yeah, me too. And then that's it. And then they have one, and then they win it. And now the tag titles are back on Alexa and Nikki, and they never defended them either. And I feel like now they've got the moment of bliss. So I'm expecting to see I'm expecting to see the tag titles is around the waists of two women sitting on director's chairs, sipping coffee, talking to somebody else. I don't foresee them being, defending champions, mainly because there aren't a lot of people to defend against, especially since now they're breaking up Mandy and Sonya. And I feel bad for Asuka and Kairi because they were so great together with those titles.
Warren, we have Anakin JMT saying the women's tag match beat tonight. I thought they had this was another indication of pace, which the tag title should be, but King Junie also says Asuka's the best empty arena wrestler there is. I think so. She keeps the volume up, Warren.
Well, I would even go as far as to say that both she and Kairi do it. It's just that Kairi, when she squeals, she sounds like a child. Yeah. You're wondering, my God, there's a toddler in the ring. And that's fantastic. I mean, and it's, the being very loud in for Kairi and Asuka in this match it's very Japanese style, right? Because if you ever watch Stardom, there's no commentary. It's completely dead. So it's all about the women being as vociferous as possible. There's your word of the day, folks. And as far as the match went, I thought it was fantastic. They did a really good job making the arena feel big. I liked how at some point Kairi Sane was trying to play to the audience, and it was both adorable and weird at the same time. But I think we also have to point out here just how good Alexa Bliss has become, because we've known Alexa Bliss to always be a very good character, be very good, a very good heel, great promos, and an okay worker, good. But I think she has improved quite a bit. And tonight she really turned it up. She was pulling out stuff that we don't regularly see her do. It wasn't just like, pulling out all the greatest hits. There was variety in there. I thought she did a fantastic job, and all women worked super well together. This was the perfect match to open WrestleMania because they gave it time. It was it was loud for the match it was, and fast paced, lots of action. Great decision to start with this match.
Big thank you to Melissa Winchester, who says, keep up the great work, guys. We really appreciate you. DJ Cass says, you guys are awesome. Keep it up and be safe. A reminder, donate a super chat. We'll read your question or statement on the air. You can subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. That is the most direct way to support us. But if you don't want to do that, just visit FightfulWrestling.com for all your wrestling news. We have the best wrestling news team out there. Big thank you to Jeremy, Robert, Carlos, David for all the work they did tonight as well. Anakin says, $2 for one more vampire joke for Warren. Ooh, what do you got for us?
I mean, with the pandemic and everything going around, I mean, I can't do it. I just end up coughing too much.
I Like Turtles says, I guess Alex is number one since he's the first one on the screen, and Sean is number two. I love the Michael Cole video you uploaded. We're going to ignore that. So Elias defeated Baron Corbin. I would say the highlight of this match was Corbin soaking in the lack of a crowd. I saw a lot of people that were like, oh, he's acting like a crowd. And I'm like, no, I feel like it's him enjoying that there is no crowd there. That's what he should have done. But Elias shows up and breaks a guitar over Corbin's back. I really thought that Gronk was going to replace him, but he didn't. And this match was whatever. But this was an hour one of SmackDown on a throwaway episode match. The booking of it, the match in general, there was a terrible-looking clothesline. Elias did a modified drift away and won with a roll-up after Corbin got caught cheating, Warren. Why did we need this tonight?
Now, this is where my issues started with the show, because this was the moment where the empty arena felt empty. Because we had a really good 15-minute match before that. Like we all agreed that felt loud, had a lot of people, and it was involved and just felt really, really dynamic. Then you come down to Baron Corbin and Elias, a match that has no real interest, no build. Despite the fact that Baron Corbin threw him off the balcony thing, no one cared about this match. This was just as much as the first match was the perfect one to start off, this was the worst one to put in second. You should not have followed up with this. This was not good. This was pre-show filler. It just opened up all the glaring problems of an empty arena right here. Plus, Elias looked damn fine tonight for a guy who just about died, or at least,
yes.
that was being put over that he could have been crippled and so on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's having that Rey Mysterio stem cell stuff, but holy smokes.
Anakin JMT says Ref Jess was the best part of the Corbin Elias. I do like that. She was like, mind your own business. I'll do my job.
If there's anything that comes out of this match, if they develop that relationship with Jessica and being like Corbin's Achilles heel, his foil, not unlike Jericho and Aubrey Edwards, I think that's still an interesting dynamic.
Alex,
Warren,
any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you said, Warren, that this is where it really felt like an empty arena match watching these two guys wrestle. I think, to be honest, it would have felt like an empty arena match if they were doing it in front of 80,000 people too. I think it probably would have been just as silent.
It may have been.
This match was pointless. Didn't need to be here. Like at the same time, I really don't enjoy Baron Corbin. I understand that he's a great heel because he doesn't care about being cool and getting people to cheer him, even though he's a heel. I understand that, but I still don't like watching him work. But I do feel bad for him that dude, like, they did everything that they ever asked of him. And they finally do this thing where they do everything with Roman for months and months and months, carrying that guy. Like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this thing. The number one program on SmackDown is going to be you versus Roman Reigns. You're going to have match after match after match after match. A whole dog food fetish is going to be introduced for you. And then Roman's going to get shotgunned like immediately into the absolute top title picture, and you get a match with Elias with no build. Like, that sucks for him to have been in that position and doing everything asked of him, being humiliated like he was at the end of that feud with Roman, and then they had literally nothing for him going into Mania. That sucks.
Andrew Stark says, when will the Hall of Fame ceremony take place? They are tentatively targeting SummerSlam-ish, but they do not know yet. Another odd finish, but I loved the match. Becky Lynch retained over Shayna Baszler. She will pass the 1-year mark as Raw Women's Champion. This is the longest on Raw or SmackDown since Trish Stratus in 05-06. And oh, by the way, Trish took like 5 months off during that reign. So really, this is probably the longest Raw or SmackDown title reign, period. I mean, you have Asuka on NXT, but that's it. I was very interested in the pace, as we just lost Alex briefly, but They kept a really good pace, and I think that that's the reason why this match was so short, because they couldn't rock with the chin lock for 2 minutes, but I'm glad that they didn't. I think that this shows you that, hey, maybe you don't really need to always slow it down, quote unquote, just because that's the way that people did it for a long time. Because what I liked was Becky and Shayna going there and slapping some ribs. You heard the strikes land. You saw them go in and out, disarmer, Kirifuda clutch, spine buster, double underhook suplex. There was a rock bottom on the apron. Somebody said, why do they always say hardest part of the ring? Well, because about 12 years ago, when moves would be done there, nobody would ever say it, and you would get old heads on shoot interviews saying, they never even talk about that being the hardest part of the ring. And now they do it all the time, because that's just what you got to do. But this match was super physical. Becky got slung into the table. Baszler applied the disarmer, but ended up connecting with a big knee. My only problem was the finish. A short match, sure. 8 or 9 minutes, probably. I'm okay with that. But Shayna Baszler is an accomplished catch-as-catch-can wrestler. One of the best at promoting the art of catch-as-catch-can wrestling. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's effectively what pro wrestling grew out of. But they started to fix the matches so they would be more interesting. You get pinned or you get submitted. Shayna doesn't watch her own tape, apparently. She always gets pinned with this when she gets pinned. She's got the Kirifuda clutch, and Becky rolls back into it. Now, I'm going to tell you from a technical aspect why I hate this so much. Because Shayna Baszler, accomplished catch wrestler, NXT champion for over a year, ran through the division less than a month ago, has her shoulders pinned to the mat. What's going on with her legs? Did you all notice anything about her legs? They just sat there. Yep. In wrestling, the reason why you hook a leg is so that person will not kick their legs, because when they kick their legs in the air, that rocks their shoulders up off the mat, and it breaks the count. So when Becky Lynch rolls backwards onto a Kirifuda clutch like that, and Shayna Baszler, who I know could kick out of that, who any wrestler on the roster should be able to kick out of that, has her legs free, it just looks so underwhelming. It looks less than. Like, I would have rather Becky roll through and apply a disarmer and tap her out, but I know that's not the gotcha type of thing. Ah, man. That was a little bit disappointing. Warren, how'd you feel about this and the finish?
I love the match. I really, really love the match until we got to the finish. The finish, I'm unequivocally on the I hate it side. I really, really didn't like it. I'm glad you brought that little precision regarding the legs. I was like, Shayna should just release the hold. Yeah. You know, it's like at that point, should just let your arms go. That's a, and someone pointed out on Twitter, oh, but she's lost like this before. I know.
That's the point.
That's the point. And like you said, she ran through the entire division to get to this point. I get it that it's a gotcha moment from Becky, but this is WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania. This is not where you continue your feuds. This is the we're ending a chapter. We're closing a book. We're opening up a new season. Give it whatever analogy you want. So, you know, I had people going, oh, well, at least their feud is going to continue. No shit, but it still could have continued in another way than this. This felt like a B pay-per-view finish. It felt, or at least like a good edition of Monday Night Raw finish, you know, kind of thing, where it just comes out of nowhere and you perpetuate the feud. But this is WrestleMania. Give me something big. Give me something to chew on. And as honestly, this is one of Shayna's best performances that I've seen in a long, long time. Becky as well. Like, they work quite well together. And I'm glad that their match together sort of erased the triple threat that they had at Survivor Series, which was so I'm glad moving forward they're going like this. But I got to tell you, at the same time, quick matches, sure, but Baron Corbin and Elias got like over 9 minutes. They clocked in at about 8:20. I'm like, This is a match that people cared about. This is a match that had stakes, that had something to happen. So, my problem is all within the conclusion of the match, because the match itself ruled. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Eloquent says, why didn't they let Shayna do the joint manipulation to really sell Shayna having the upper hand? I think that's more of a crowd spot. I think that's one that you want to really get that ew reaction.
Well,
Alex, do you think that this finish, before we get into your thoughts on the match, do you think this finish could be almost a callback to the oops, pow, surprise on Ronda last year?
I mean, I think that certainly there's a pattern for Becky. Mm-hmm. She wins her biggest challenge matches, like the one that made her Becky 2 belts, and then this one defending it to make sure she got a year with the Raw Championship, defending it against what was supposed to be her biggest challenge yet. She won both of them with the roll-up.
Could you imagine? So could you imagine if that's the reason why they put this, that they showed the match on Monday Night Raw this week, just to make sure that they're like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, guys, this was planned out for over a year. This is how Becky's going to win again this year. My God.
Yeah. The thing about this that I said this on Sour Graps, the way that I certainly would have booked it, is Becky's been getting very, very overconfident. Like you don't go out and buy a semi truck and have somebody airbrush your face on it and drive it around everywhere unless you're an egomaniac.
Yeah.
So I thought she was getting overconfident, a little too big for her britches. There was that thing a few weeks ago where she was sitting at the commentary desk looking like Conor McGregor with a giant. She sold Jerry the King's crown, put it on her head. She got the deal with it, sunglasses, the big fur coat. She was getting too confident in herself. And I thought it was all set up for her to come into WrestleMania thinking, I got this. I'm Becky Balboa. And it was going to turn out to be Balboa versus Clubber Lang at the beginning of Rocky 3, where she just gets her ass handed to her. And she's like, whoa, I didn't know that this was going to happen to me. And then she's got to fight from underneath to win the rematch like Rocky does at the end of that movie. That would have been something to go for. But
it's funny that you mentioned that. Nikita Krylov fan texted me tonight and said they need to do a Rocky 3 storyline with Becky and Shayna. Hot dog. Aaron J's fan says, real question, does Becky keep the truck? No way, that's a rental. They've got 1 billion trucks, and you just know they did a rental for that one. WWE Intercontinental, actually, Tyler Drummond says, Becky also beat Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's title with a weirdish roll-up. Consistency, yeah. Stone Cold used to win them with a stunner in the middle of the ring, except for the Owen Hart match, but hey.
I mean, also, Shayna has lost two of her, 5 defeats in the history of being part of WWE. She's lost twice by somebody countering the Kirifuda clutch into that particular roll-up. You'd think by now she'd have a counter to that counter.
Look at Steve Austin. He lost to Bret Hart, and then the next time that happened, he let go of the hold. He learned. He evolved. That was the story. Sami Zayn defeated Daniel Bryan to retain the Intercontinental title. Zayn was killing time. I wasn't as in love with this as many were, but I did like it. Zayn begged, and it was Bryan kicking Zayn's ass the entire time, except when he worried about Gulak taking out the Artist Collective, which worked the first time around, didn't the second time around. He also teased letting Zayn get counted out, and then he went back and got him, but Zayn catches Bryan off the top rope with a boot, which was said to have been a haluva kick. I thought this was fine. I thought it was good, but it wasn't the Sami Zayn Daniel Bryan match that I was hoping for.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't El Generico against Bryan Danielson. It was Sami Zayn the manager against Daniel Bryan. Well, Alex.
Yeah, no, the thing about it, they're really leaning into this whole Sami Zayn not really a wrestler anymore thing. Like he's wearing Dockers tucked into his wrestling boots. Like it looks like, not so much like, it looks like, something you'd wear to casual Fridays at the office, so, in the before times.
So I've had a plethora of gear during my days, and my wife knows what work pants and shoot pants are.
Yeah.
That was her main concern throughout this show. Are those work pants or shoot pants? And for some, I'm like, oh, AJ's for sure wearing real jeans. But Sammy, I feel like he would want the freedom. You know what I mean? He would want to stretch.
But he hasn't had a haircut in forever.
Yeah.
He looks a little doughy. Like they're not presenting him at all as a real like a real wrestler. And
I think he looks leaner now than he has in previous years, actually.
Well, okay. Well, maybe I was looking at him from the wrong.
Maybe you should stop fat shaming him, Alex.
Maybe I should. Coming from me, I know the deal. But the thing about it is that I want the old Sami Zayn. I want Sami Zayn who wrestles, who doesn't like cower in the corner. Like, I understand that's the character, but can at some point can we? If he's a heel, he has to be a chicken shit. I get it. It's WWE.
Yeah.
But can he wrestle one match with that fire of the old Sami Zayn that we loved? Like, finally, Sami Zayn gets to defend the Intercontinental title, the title he was made for at WrestleMania, and he has to do it A, as a heel, B, in front of nobody, and C, like, being a chicken shit the whole time. I felt like it was not necessarily the match Sami Zayn wanted to be as IC title holder at Mania.
Warren, any thoughts on this?
I was disappointed in this match, and here's the thing. As you know, I am a fan of the stall. I'm a big Larry Zbyszko 7-minute stall proponent. I believe in it. I think it's a great art tool in the arsenal of a good heel who knows how to do it. And I'm fine.
Or any former WWE wrestler who is working an indie show. And I mean, I don't mean like PWG. I mean your local flea market. They're spending a solid 7 minutes. Al Snow's going to chase somebody around the ring with the head. Shark Boy's going to try to bite your ass for 6 minutes. I saw Eugene threaten to shove his thumb up a guy's ass for 7 minutes. I get what you mean.
So that being said, the payoff from a good stall is, of course, babyface getting the upper hand finally, but also the heel mounting a comeback as well, so that the real comeback for the babyface can happen. And we just didn't get that from Sami. We just didn't. And it is an extreme crying shame that we are presented with this version of Sami Zayn where I'm convinced he can still work. We just don't know anymore. We honestly don't know. When he was on hiatus because of his injury, he was questioning who he was and his position in wrestling. Is it still for me? Hell, he even tweeted out to Hangman Page this week about when Hangman Page was realizing that ultimately wrestling is irrelevant or something like that. And Sami Zayn basically gave him a pat on the back and said, at least you're realizing it now this early in your career, pal, kind of thing. It'll make things easier moving on. I'm really disappointed because this was on a personal level, because this was one of the matches I was most looking forward to this weekend, because it's Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan. They should have torn the house down. Instead, they lasted 20 seconds more than Elias and Baron Corbin, which is ridiculous because, again, this is a match. It was a title match. It had stakes and had proper buildup. It was one of the only matches that had actual proper buildup. The whole setup to this match felt like a Friday night SmackDown match right into the finish. It did not feel like a WrestleMania match with a WrestleMania outcome.
Guys, do us a solid. Share the link to this podcast on social media. That helps us a lot. But we are on podcast platforms everywhere. Spotify, iTunes, all over the place. If you want to do us a solid, a lot of our views and listens come from YouTube, so we don't get quite as many iTunes reviews as other shows. If you don't mind, go leave us a nice review if you think we deserve one over on iTunes, and that helps us out. Rob Wilkins says, more about this Eugene Thumb story. Giggity. I'll tell that on Select or something. We'll move that off the WrestleMania show, but people can get unique with these stalls. It's not just Larry Zbyszko walking around and doing, hey, hold on. but it does exist. SmackDown Tag Team Championship ladder match. John Morrison defeated Kofi Kingston and Jimmy Uso to retain the titles because Miz was pulled from this match. Woof. Throwback 27 says, the ladder match for the tag titles was a great finish, or the finish could have been better rather than having it end in a big thud with Morrison falling. The match itself could have been top 3 of the night. I loved the match. I hated that things had to happen the way they did because it didn't make a ton of sense. I did like the idea that if if John Morrison lost the title, The Miz should have been like, oh, no, you just lost your title. I am now tag team champions with Jimmy Uso. So that's how we're going to do it. But it became very clear early in this match they didn't pause for takes, so to speak, because that was a question like, oh, will they do takes if they mess up a move? Nope. This had some awesome spots. Maybe the best Starship Pain I've ever seen in the corner on a ladder. Kofi dove from the ladder or the ropes into the ladder and got caught. Kofi threw a ladder into Jimmy Uso walking on a barricade. Naughty.
Into his shins, man. That's not okay.
Cut him off at the legs. Kofi almost snagged the top rope on a trust fall. But I thought this was John Morrison's best WWE performance. I was saying during this run, it might be period. I'm not a big John Morrison guy. I think tag teams are the right place for him. The Spanish Fly was a beauty. The Mushroom Stomp from Kofi, a beauty. And I give Morrison just as much credit for that as anybody. Another spot that I adored was Jimmy Uso ramming Kofi's face into the ladder. And then trash-talking him, Alex. We got to mic the Usos up like it's an NFL game.
They should be mic'd, like, even when we get back to having arenas, mic up some of these guys. At least so we can, like, in the replays, we can hear it very, very clearly. Like do that at least, because these guys were really, they added so much to it. You're right. The I guess it was a Starship Pain. Like, he's standing on the top of the ring post, and the Jimmy Uso is directly underneath him across the ladder, directly underneath him, and he's still able to do a full rotation and all those spins before landing it. Yep. Usually, you got to have distance in order to get all of those spins and rotations to get all of those before you land. That's insane how fast he got all those things.
I want to see him start wedging the person between the second and top rope when he does it now.
Why not?
Or the first or second rope, because he misses it every other time.
He goes too far. Yeah.
He goes too far. But the finish, Warren, I'm excited to see how you feel about this. They all get up there, and they all pull down the belts. But they don't hear a bell ring, so they're just like, let's keep fighting. Morrison is able to unhook them, but they knock him off, and he lands on the ladder, but he has both of the titles. I like this finish. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a great way to finish it. But how did you feel?
I feel a little differently. I think this is a fit. Yeah, it's all right. You know, I don't always have to agree. That's all right. This to me, this is another good match, like Becky and Shayna, that was marred by a bad finish. I didn't like it. And it's because it's a shame because they worked so hard. They worked in front of 70,000 people tonight. You know what I mean? Like they really went all out in their creativity in the spots. But the finish, man, you know what I really think the best finish would have had two of the guys climb the ladder, each one grabs a strap, and then the bell is rung. And then you end up with Morrison and Jimmy Uso, and they're like, oh, what do we do now kind of thing, you know? Or finally get that New Day split that everyone's been clamoring for the past decade or so. I don't know. And to me, the match was WrestleMania level. The finish was not. Again, it's something that's a little wonky, not decisive. It bothered me. It really did. And especially when you consider that they could have gone into a very creative territory. You come back on SmackDown and it's like, well, folks, two different teams won. We got to vacate the titles and have ourselves a tournament.
I don't want to vacate. I hate vacates.
But then, come on. You get into a tournament, but because the tournament then establishes the whole division, then you can go back and start elevating other teams, put the teams back into prominence. That's what you do. I look, there were a lot of possibilities here. I thought it was interesting, but I feel it was a cop-out.
You could have had a tournament, you know, get Gulak and Bryan together, actually have a tag team, all that kind of stuff. You made Cesaro and Nakamura back together again, all that kind of stuff. That's all fine. And that's a possibility as well. What I thought was odd is having three guys up there and they all grab part of it's because it's a tag title ladder match. The tag titles, both of them, are hooked. They're strapped around this apparatus, this gold bar thing that is then hooked to the rope from the top of the performance center. And when they're all up there grabbing it, Jimmy Uso reaches over and he's the one who unhooks it. So Jimmy Uso won. Like every tag team ladder match I've ever seen, it ends when one of the tag team gets up there and unhooks it. It doesn't end when he climbs back down the ladder, like, because that's what happens when Morrison fell. That's why he won, because he fell off the ladders while holding the belts. That's not how it works. Now, if it had been a singles match, then you could actually have had one guy unhook it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm saying for you is the opportunity that was missed was to have Kofi and Jimmy each grab a belt, and then I don't know, they don't really have a authority figure to do this, but he says, okay, Jimmy and Kofi, you're the tag champs now, and their top contenders will be Jay and Big E. And you have each, because we've already seen Kofi and Big E versus the Usos over and over and over again. To make them now work together opposite for like a couple of months, that could anchor SmackDown. Watching these guys, watching to see if Kofi and Jimmy can work together, if Big E and Jay can work together, that could be a lot of fun. Instead, oh well, I guess Morrison just won. I mean, there's opportunities to be creative and have a lot of fun with this. They just said, no, we're just it's status quo, please. We like the status quo.
Up next, Kevin Owens defeated Seth Rollins. This is a bit historic in the sense that unless something happens tomorrow and Rollins manages to pop up and win a match, this will be the first time that Rollins hasn't won a match at WrestleMania. Before you come up and say,
he actually lost to Randall Keith Orton at WrestleMania several years ago.
he also cashed in Money in the Bank and won a match that night. Jason Check says, hi, AP, SRS, and MWH. Thanks for covering WrestleMania. Hey, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Throwback bringing up Kofi's good line. I know you have heart, but I have to put you down. That was great. Alex, I completely agree with you. Mic them up, even if it's Jey Uso being a second and reacting to his brother getting kicked in the face.
Yes.
I love it. Show it during the replay. So this is hard hitting and heavy. Owens and Rollins are like doing Falcon arrows on the aprons and hitting each other with heavy moves, swantons, pop-up power bombs. And then Rollins hits Owens with the bell for a DQ. Now, they just don't do DQs at WrestleMania anymore, and they shouldn't. You look through like the first 9 or 10 WrestleManias. Oh, boy. You would think Dairy Queen sponsored the damn thing. There's so much DQ on these shows. It is unbelievable. But not anymore. And Rollins goes to leave. I gotta say, there's a lot of naughty language on these shows these days. I'm waiting for this wrestling boom because there were tons of people on Twitter that swore that curse words, blood, and boobs were going to bring wrestling back to the promised land. But Kevin Owens has been a big culprit of this foul language, saying, those are the actions of a little bitch, not a god. He wants a no DQ match. No Dairy Queen, motherfucker. So I'm dying at Kevin Owens getting his ass ripped and him going, yeah, well, you're still always going to be a little bitch. This dude, so I'll say it all the time. He is so good at talking trash in his second language. I can't imagine how just bad he would tear people up in French.
Oh, I've seen him on indie shows when he was still working Quebec City and Montreal. He was awesome.
God. Do you speak French?
Oui, monsieur.
Okay, we're going to get Warren Hayes to translate some Kevin Owens French promos one day. My God.
Fightful Select.
There you
That's
go.
good.
Well, Owens keeps hitting Rollins with the ring bell, and the sound is amazing. But then the damnedest spot. He jumps off the WrestleMania sign through a table and wins with the stunner. Whoo, that visual of that dive, Warren. Man, Kevin Owens is something special. The dude is something special.
That's exact. I tweeted out, God bless Kevin Owens. That's because and he does this every year. He leaps off of something insane every year. And I feel he doesn't get half the credit he should. What I like the most, I think what was most dramatic about the dive, Sean, is that he got up there. And you know what? If there were 70,000 people, he'd milk the moment, right?
Yeah.
He'd stand there a bit and, gather your courage. Audience starts flipping out. Please don't die, chance, whatever. Then he does it. But here, there was nothing to hold him back. And this is why Kevin Owens is so great, because maybe a lesser wrestler would have stood there and lick his lips and do one of these and then dive. But Kevin Owens understands in the situation that he's in. He's like, there's no one. I'm going up here. He almost ran off. He got up and boop, boop, wah, and he just dove. We, as an audience, didn't have time to prepare for it. He's like, my God. And that's what I thought was most effective about it. That's what made it so bloody dramatic. That and the fact that he really landed on his side. And look, it was a gnarly fall, but it was also really, really good. To me, this is legendary, if only for that. Just the fact that he got up and he jumped off. It was all business.
Yeah. I love that spot. Do you remember, guys, when they first hung the right after Royal Rumble or whatever, they first hung that giant pirate WrestleMania sign up in the all the arenas? We're like, somebody's gonna jump off of that shit at WrestleMania. It's gonna be nuts. And he actually did it. It wasn't hung way up in the rafters. It was just like 15 feet up, but still somebody jumped off of that fucking WrestleMania
It is a
sign.
shame we don't get the Paul Burchill rope because of the situation.
Yeah.
Because that seemed like a definite spot we could do. Hannah Moore says Seth's moaning was so uncomfortable. It was amazing.
It was so good. You remember that time where somebody body slammed Shane McMahon onto a bunch of plastic crates? And he was like, oh, for 15 seconds. It was good.
I love it.
I do remember that.
Throwback says, with Owens winning this match, what's next for Seth after this? Could it lead to a Samoa Joe match for Seth? I think it could, Samoa Joe coming back, but I think that Seth is probably next on Edge's hit list. Because just a few years ago, Seth Rollins was holding his foot on Edge's neck, threatening to break his neck if he didn't get a match with John Cena. And I bet you the character Edge has not forgotten about that. And that seems logical and quite frankly, I don't think we need Seth to be coming off of a win for us to care about this based on the promo work we've seen out of Edge lately.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, guys, then it happened. The night that wrestling was revived one. They say you need to stay out of churches. You got to stay out of churches right now, but we're having a revival. WWE, they did it. They did it. Braun Strowman defeated Bill Goldberg to win the WWE Universal Championship. Anakin JMT says, Alex, who were Goldberg's guards there for?
I don't know. They certainly didn't look like they could protect him from anything, and they were definitely not keeping up social distancing regulations.
Yes.
They were right there next to him.
They were afraid Kevin Dunn was going.
If he catches it, he could die.
They were afraid Kevin Dunn was going to attack him because he's tired of hiding all of Bill Goldberg's shit. He's like, I'm sick of trying to shoot around all this. So he just tries to take Goldberg out. Oh, man. So here's the match. Goldberg hits a bunch of spears. Braun kicks out. There was no real attempt at a jackhammer, fortunately.
Thank God.
We were about to see a wide shot, and then there would be Babatunde in there, painted white, jackhammering. Jackhammering Braun. And then the abrupt cut back in. That's how they were going to get around it. Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. And then Braun Strowman just hits him with a bunch of power slams and beats him. And I'm cool with it. And we don't have to get into it. We'll save this for another show. The Fiend never needed the WWE Championship. Here's the thing. Not only did he not need the championship, he didn't need the match for the championship.
Right.
But what he didn't need more was Bill Goldberg beating him. And, I can disagree and not like the things that Braun Strowman has said socially lately. But this should have happened 2.5 years ago, Alex, and I know that you think so as well.
Oh, absolutely. This is long overdue. Here's the thing about it. The match booked perfectly. Quick, easy. Braun gets hit with a bunch of walking spears from, 2 steps, spear, 3 steps, spear at half speed because it's, Goldberg. But he kicks out of those things. Then power slam, running power slam, 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's exactly how this match should have been booked. You put him over strong, have him crush Goldberg, become the monster champion he should have been 2.5 or 3 years ago. But if you're gonna book him this strong, how in the world do you still not give us a reason why he's even in the match to begin with? Nothing. They just say he replaced Roman Reigns. But okay, fine. You don't want to tell us that Roman pulled out because of COVID fears. Don't tell us that. Why specifically was Braun chosen? Did Goldberg pick him? Say, I want to fight the biggest, baddest dude you got in the locker room to prove myself? Did Braun say, hey, you need a new partner. I'll be your Huckleberry. You can get these hands. Did they do any of that? Did they ever mention any of that? No. It's like people who don't follow the dirt sheets, who expected waking up this morning if they didn't watch SmackDown last night to see Roman Reigns versus Goldberg tonight. Come on.
And Triple H tried to say it would unfold in a unique way. It was
so unique.
Uniquely lazy. And that's even for them. Throwback says, Owens versus Seth match made the moment of the show start to go well till the Goldberg match. All I ask for is Owens, Braun, and a few others to get a push towards SummerSlam because of all this momentum building would be just for nothing. Thank God for Goldberg being put out. Don't bring him back. Here's the thing, Warren. I'm okay with him being back if it's a SummerSlam 2019 situation. I was there for that. Dolph Ziggler, Bill Goldberg, that was fun. That was a lot of fun, and there's no title there. I watched Chuck Liddell fight a year and a half ago, and I'd do it again. It's the freak show aspect of things. I'm okay with that, but I don't ever, Warren, need to see a title match with Bill Goldberg again.
No, we don't. I'm going to keep this short because there's not much to unpack here other than I'm glad that they decided to probably continue what they had intended for Roman, and that is to take the belt off of Goldberg. We had talked about it last night, Sean, on when we did our predictions. We were kind of afraid that they might go forward with Goldberg still hanging on to the title, considering the situation, the pandemic. I'm glad they didn't. I hope that they use Goldberg in a much more judicious way moving forward if they ever need to use him again, because, Goldberg is a guy, he takes wrestling very seriously. Hi, Ellie, if you guys think we take it seriously, Goldberg takes wrestling very seriously. He's a guy who is very concerned about his legacy. This does not help his legacy, or at least his title run here did not help his legacy. Honestly, should have just ended with the Brock feud a couple of years ago. That was perfectly booked from the moment he won it from Kevin Owens right till his loss. That was perfect, and that's all we needed. We didn't need this. Thank you, Bill. See you next time.
Yeah, this match went just over 2 minutes, and in a world of Braun Strowman versus Bill Goldberg, you should really be a Shawn Michaels versus a Bret Hart. You know what I'm saying? Because even though 2 minutes got the job done for Braun Strowman, even though just 1, 2, 3, 4 spears, oh, I'm done. That's not going to satisfy everybody. Sometimes you have to pace. Sometimes you have to build to some high spots, and then you make the crowd explode. And fortunately, BlueChew.com and that code Fightful can help get that done. That's right. You can go to over an hour. I mean, even in overtime, you got commissioners running into your bedroom saying, "Nah, we gotta see a definitive finish." And you're like, "Hey, buddy, that's on my own time." Thanks to BlueChew.com and the increased sexual performance that I am gaining as a result of that. Now, this isn't just for people with a problem. It's for that extra confidence, for that moment, so to speak, that people will remember in the annals or annals of time, whichever it may be. Blue Chew has the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but let's be real, it's way better because you don't have to go to the doctor, you don't have to go to the pharmacy, and you need to be staying away from those places in this environment unless you have to go. It's prescribed online by Blue Chew-affiliated physicians, and it ships straight to your door by one of the heroes delivering mail these days. Big thank you to them. And hey, let me just say this. If your mailman likes to fuck, you can thank them with the performance that you uncorked with BlueChew.com. Maybe your mailman wants to handle your package with care, and you're like, nah, son. Nah, I can go all night. I deliver to the back door as well. I don't know what you're into. This is me paraphrasing what you might say to your mailman or woman, assuming you have a consensual sexual relationship with said mailman or mail woman. Use that code FIGHTFUL. You get your first shipment free. That code FIGHTFUL, that's very important. First shipment free. You just pay $5 shipping. They know that you're going to come back if they're giving it to you for free. Ah, man. Hit them up at Blue Chew on Twitter. Let them know you heard about them from us. This was a special moment. Special moment. Throwback 27 says, Mixed Match Challenge reference. Team Little Big going home with the gold tonight. Braun and Alexa have the titles. Yeah, I think that's like the only person Braun follows on Twitter, too, is Alexa. Mm-hmm. David Gold says... Jimmy Uso yelling, "Flatten your face like a pancake," made me fall off my couch laughing. He was amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
Amazing. JJ Lee said, "Signs are for pointing, not jumping." But let's talk about this main event. Oh boy, am I ready to talk about this. Like I said, I was told something out of the box is happening, something out of the box is happening. Undertaker and AJ Styles are main eventing WrestleMania this night. It counts. You can say,
Doesn't count. There's nobody there. It doesn't really count.
it counts. Undertaker has now main evented WrestleMania across 4 decades. And I had somebody very important in wrestling say, I hope Vince takes this as a sign because he can get a lot of years out of Undertaker like this. He can. I see you doing, Warren. You know who my mamaw loved to watch? Was it Charles Bronson that was like 80 still running around? Death Wish or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
10 to midnight. He was like 76. I'm just saying.
I love Undertaker. It's not the question. It's if he's used like he is tonight, and we're going to talk about it. It's fine. I just worry about Undertaker because I know how injured he is, how busted he is, and the guy has given so much for us. Like I would respect him. I would respect at any given moment where he decided to end it. The hero deserves his Valhalla at this point. Honestly, he has given everything to this business to entertain us, to be a pro wrestler. I'm good now. You know what I mean? But it's not like, oh, Undertaker, keep going. I don't want to see him in matches anymore. Au contraire, if they use him like they did tonight, that's fine. I just worry about the guy.
Well, that's what the person meant. We got a super chat saying the Boneyard match, Cena Fiend match is set up for failure. But Jamancito Gomez says, I hope Funhouse is just as good. I mean, Alex, this has set a very high standard. High standard for, and we don't even know if this will be like what we're seeing tomorrow.
The thing about this that I loved is that the I mean, final deletion between Hardy and Bray on that episode of Raw was interesting. You know, chair of wheels, mower of lawns, and everything like that. That was one thing. But like, if you compare what we saw tonight to the only other thing we have really, which is the House of Horrors match, I mean, this is far and beyond better. But it's still like I don't know if it's actually great. It's just so much better and so much more creative and so different than everything else we get from WWE that it feels like it's breaking brand new ground when it's like an episode of Lucha Underground. Like it's there's so much here that I love, and I love seeing these two guys in this. There was so much about this that I really, really enjoyed. But I don't know if I'm a prisoner of the moment and grading on a curve, and I'll have to see what they do with Bray, and as you say, now legitimate movie actor John Cena doing with hopefully letting Bray have a modicum of creative control in how this Firefly Funhouse match plays out. I do have faith that it could be just as good as the Boneyard match, if not even better, provided they book it right.
Abaddon says, never thought I would see AJ Styles main event of WrestleMania. Hey, I'm there with you, man, but Vince McMahon has fallen in love with this guy over the last 4 years, and I guarantee you that he wishes that he had AJ Styles for the 15 years that preceded it, because it's just one of those guys that he had to see to understand.
Even in like 2010, if he had brought him over in 2010 instead of 4 or 5 years later, it still would have been.
There are specifically two little guy gimmicks that Vince McMahon has had a fetish for a long time. Mighty Mouse and a pit bull. And he's tried to make both of those work a lot of times, and he's never found his Mighty Mouse, so to speak. He thought he did with Neville. He thought he did with a lot of people. He found his pit bull 4 years ago, and that's who he's stuck with AJ Styles. Throwback 27 said, the Boneyard match was done amazingly. Looks like WWE learned from the House of Horrors match. And he also says, was funny how Gronk was trying to get the 24/7 title and Owens diving off the sign. I want to send a big thank you to Throwback. He is always super generous to us, and we appreciate that so much, and we appreciate all of you that are donating super chats. But big thank you to Throwback, who is always very good to us. Super chats help pay for our podcasters, our writers, our freelancers, all that good stuff. So I want to thank you all so much for that, but let's get into it. There's an Undertaker entrance in the graveyard, but AJ Styles pops out. And I just love how his music cues when the casket opens. But then we get the return of the Biker Taker, and I'm all for it. Because, Alex, it had to be Biker Taker here.
Had to be. Yeah, no, he can't be.
He was Charles Bronson.
He was Charles Bronson. But, I mean, like, he already did the Biker Taker promo to the camera on SmackDown. He was obviously Biker Taker. Even when he showed up for the contract signing that actually wasn't a contract signing, because, as I said, they changed what the match was after the contract signing, so it needed to be. We're owed a contract signing is what I'm saying. But I loved all of this, like him riding the bike up, Metallica playing. That was so awesome, and like the cinematic shot from overhead as the bike peels into the cemetery with the headlights and the fog. God, this is awesome. This when Vince says we make movies, I'm like, no, you don't. Not normally, but tonight proved that you can if you want. So why not do this more often? This was inspired compared to what you normally throw out there, which is, like, as we talk about, you don't even figure out a reason why the guy is in the Universal title match that you then book him to win. So, like, compare that level of laziness to the level of setting this up, putting it all together, the shots that you have to, like, put together with lights and all that stuff. They have a laser light show with Taker's logo and flames coming out of the dam. Like, that is so much more intricate and created with love as opposed to meh, which is everything else.
So, Undertaker Goldberged himself on the window. And by that, I mean he put his hand through it. My wife watched that, and she's like, oh, my God, he's bleeding. And I'm like, this is all Hollywood.
Yeah.
And she still kind of didn't believe me, but I was like, man, she's been around wrestling a lot. Like, she's worked a couple matches in her days. And I'm like, if it got her, it got somebody else that's just watching this. But I was like, it's not real. AJ gets thrown onto a windshield and gets his ass beat before getting tossed into a grave. And then Gallows and Anderson show up. WrestleMania main eventers. And then there's a lot of druids. And Taker disposes of all of them. AJ pops up. And Taker breaks his finger, which AJ's like, "Oh, damn it, you broke my finger!" The music added a lot to this.
Oh, it so did.
I remember when I was playing Here Comes the Pain with my cousin, and I was like, man, this is the most realistic wrestling game I've seen. He goes, oh, yeah, they play music in the background? Now I can call him up, and he'll say, oh, you had a show with Alex, my boy Alex, huh? And I'll say, hey, by the way, dipshit, they did play music in the back of your favorite wrestler's match. How about it?
Yeah.
I like this.
My favorite part about the early part of this of the match was when it switched from Taker being in control to AJ being in control. It switched on leaves in the face. Like AJ threw leaves in Taker's face, and the leaves were too much. He couldn't bear the leaves.
Yes.
It was just excellent. It's so campy.
AJ Styles calls Taker a broken down old bitch. Warren, were you surprised by this use of terminology on this show?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. But I mean, look, there's an empty arena. You have to fill it up with something, even though you're not getting the reaction. You know, you can. I really liked the Boneyard match. I thought it was fantastic. At this point, if we're going to really scrape into it, they're nitpicks because I really did enjoy it. I love the production. I loved how everything was handled. There was trash talking, which was essential and necessary, like AJ Styles did. But I thought Undertaker. I was listening to Undertaker. I was like, Undertaker doesn't have a good trash talk game because all he was saying was like, "All right, you want some? All right, you think you can handle it? Come get some more. I want to get." Come here, boy. And I'm like, dude, I mean, AJ was calling you bitch, man. And all you can do is, yeah, is that all you got?
On,
yeah, come on, son. I'm like, like I said, it's nitpicky. All right. I'm this didn't completely destroy my appreciation of the event because it ruled. It was a lot of fun.
I think it works for Undertaker, being the old man that doesn't have to say a lot. Like Warren, I don't know if you know this, but he's Charles Bronson. So
yeah,
he gets Styles cracks Taker with a shovel and pushes him into the grave, but when Styles gets on his John Deere, Taker appears behind him and he explodes a building. Then he beats up the whole club on a roof. He threw Gallows off, Tombstone Carl on top of it, and chokeslammed Styles on a piece of wood. This is where I thought the trash talk kind of picked up. He's like, AJ,
yes.
What'd you say? You called me old. What's going on? How you doing? Styles apologizes.
Please don't bury me. Please don't bury me.
I did like that Taker, Alex, kind of mixed in compliments. He's like, yeah, you're tougher than I thought.
Yeah, tougher than I thought. You know, I've given a lot of guys a lot of beatings. You're taking this beating pretty well. I thought that was good. I also loved, we didn't talk about this, where Gallows and Anderson have their own fleet of druids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? When those druids tried to unionize back in '99, Taker really should have let him unionize because now it's all coming home to roost, and he has to fight through all these guys who used to work for him back in the day, and he still owes them money, and they've come to collect. That's the only thing I could figure out. I loved it. It was fantastic. And he was like, all right, if you guys are coming on, come on. And he's like doing the thing where like each of like, where there's the hero and there's a whole group of foot soldiers around him and they each come at him one at a time. Taker's like, okay, let's do that. One for you. Here's one to your gut. I'm going to pick you up and throw you into the other guy. It's just wonderful. Just a fantastic use of the old aging action star. Like, you tell me Taker doesn't look like basically like what Steven Seagal looks like now doing his action movies where just like one guy comes at him, pa-pow, boom, that's it.
Neck snap
Fantastic.
Here and there.
Yeah.
T. Smitty says, I like that Taker and AJ wore street clothes. The best explanation I ever saw for why wrestlers wear street clothes in street fights that are wrestling matches is Elijah Burke on Impact commentary, he was like, gear is expensive and jeans are a lot cheaper. So that's why you do it. You don't want it torn up by barbed wire and glass and all that stuff. Taker Sparta kicks Styles in the grave and buries him. There's a headstone with Styles' name on it. And Taker rides off. This was just a lot of fun. When we got on the air, we were all a little bit giddy getting on the air. And that's not... We cover Wednesdays together. And still, it's not quite like that. This is a lot of fun. Warren, any final thoughts on this match?
It was fun. It's just as simple as that. Like I said, if you really want to get into it, you can get a little nitpicky. But sometimes just the overall feeling that you get at the end is usually indicative of how things went. I enjoyed this. This was fun. This is when I talk about a couple of times when I talk about WWE being a billion-dollar corporation with a lot of resources at its fingertips, blah, 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 and that I expect them to do better. This is on the level of what I expect from them. Made me realize when they talked about doing WrestleMania at different locations, I was expecting other matches during the evening to be in different locations. Maybe not as elaborate as what we saw here, but a little more production to them. And I think that perhaps as outside viewers, outside of the smart fan bubble, maybe a lot of fans who were watching this were a little thrown off by the empty arena at some point, and maybe a more produced match within the mid card would have broken things up a little bit, sort of take you out of the empty environment with something a little more produced, like maybe. Hey, the Elias and Baron Corbin match could have definitely benefited from a little Hollywood magic. I think it would have broken things up, would have made the event feel a little less empty at times. That said, as an experiment tonight, I think it was pretty good. I liked it. Can't wait for tomorrow.
And we're in this unique situation where every single person, not just that's watching, but in the world, outside of like maybe an isolated tribe or something, knows what's going on and why this venue is empty. Like every single person knows why nobody is there. So they're very, very lucky. Hannah Moore says, nah, don't look over there. I'm here. Your ribs hurt, don't they? Throwback, our very generous friend says, if I get hired by Fightful, I just do it for fun. Thank you guys for the show. Hey, we will talk because there ain't no amount of money we can pay you that will be enough. Let me tell you, buddy, we appreciate you. Alex, any final thoughts on this match in WrestleMania?
I mean, I as you said, Warren, with a company that has the resources that WWE has, the fact that they don't give us something on this level with more regularity than once ever, like, I mean, they could do this, a couple of times a year. Like, figure out a way to, like, this felt like I was watching the climactic fight scene of a WWE Studios movie, and they shot it and they figured out how to put it together in the span of basically a week, 10 days or whatever. Like they put it together lickety split basically, and it came out great. So you can do this. It doesn't have to be when your backs are against the wall and when there's a pandemic forcing you to have empty arena matches. Your alternative is let's do this in a boneyard. You can do this whenever.
Yeah.
Please do, because you can see. I haven't seen one person on social media who's like, that sucked. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have watched AJ Styles versus Undertaker in an empty arena. Like, nobody thinks that. So, like, do this more often. You're going to get more praise from people. And I will be willing to forgive a lot of other things when I get to see something like this on your show.
If this is your first time here, leave a thumbs up, subscribe. Fightful.com covers wrestling, MMA, and boxing. But if you just want the wrestling stuff, FightfulWrestling.com. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of interviews at this point from WWE wrestlers, Impact, AEW, Ring of Honor, independent wrestlers. We have a lot of backstage news, like as much as anybody at this point. We have a great resources section that keeps you up to date with contracts, injuries, TV ratings, anything that you can think of, we cover at FightfulWrestling.com. FightfulSelect.com is our premium service. That's how you can help us effectively bankroll all these stories we're doing. And bankroll shows like this, it really helps us. And I want to thank all of you who chose to be here. I know there's a lot of people that are going live after this show tonight, and I want to thank you all that are here with us. WrestleMania 36, Night 2. We do have a Night 1 review as well, so make sure you guys check that out. But Fightful.com has all your wrestling news, MMA news, boxing news. If you just like the wrestling, head over to FightfulWrestling.com. I am joined once again by Warren Hayes and Alex Palowski. And hey, you know what? If you guys want to sit through both of the shows collectively, I'm going to put together a third Fightful podcast for this, where we'll just have both of these shows kind of welded together, so to speak. A reminder, if you're watching live on youtube.com/Fightful, leave a thumbs up, subscribe, tap that bell for notifications. Do that if you're even not watching live. But if you donate a super chat, any amount, you get your question or statement read on the air. What a deal! Just like the deal that Fightful Select is. That is our premium service every week. 2 reviews from Alex Palowski, Raw and SmackDown. Every week, my backstage report with 20 to 25 minutes of exclusive news. Every week, a Q&A show. Every week, we have the Weekender podcast. And then all the exclusive news, including some that I dropped today about certain WWE superstars pushing to get the pile driver back in WWE. Let's go ahead and get into these super chats. Michael Morgan says you're going to have to spend at least 3 hours talking about the Wyatt-Cena match. If Cena changes somehow because of it, it might actually have a chance at saving The Fiend. Thank you guys for the shows. We love them. Hey, we love you, and we will definitely be covering that. When you send a super chat, I will approach them as they fit into the show, but I will get all of them, I promise you. And a reminder, we are on podcast platforms everywhere. Let's go ahead and get into it. We kind of mentioned it off the air, Alex. I think, as Anakin JMT pointed out, he said he thinks night 1 edged out night 2. I think so too. What do you think?
I say that some of the heights of night 2 might have eclipsed some of the heights of night 1, but overall, everything on night 1 was just at a higher level than night 2. There was just some stuff on night 2 that just didn't need to be around. Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley, not sure what that was. Street Profits versus some cobbled together team that it wasn't supposed to be there. They didn't have the urgency. Like, I need to see this match. This is a WrestleMania match. Like, a lot of stuff on night 2 didn't have that.
Warren, how about you? Are you in the same boat there?
Yep, I'll even go as far as to say that this was the night that we felt the empty arena a lot more. This was tonight. There were matches that required the audience for them to be fully appreciated. So I'm in complete agreement. There were extremely high peaks, but the valleys were very, very low.
Hannah Moore sends a super chat and says, this Taker show looks like it's going to be good. I'm excited for that. I would be down to just hear The Undertaker in a 30-part series walk through 1 year at a time of his career. I'm completely fine with that. I wanted The Undertaker podcast, The Undertaker Q&A. Like, I wanted a lot of that, but it looks like we're going to get something. A question that is out there. Well, actually, we can fit that in at the end of the tag match about the NXT ladder match. But let's go ahead and talk about Liv Morgan and Natalya. I've been talking to a lot of people backstage who like Liv Morgan, and with good reason. And they need to push her because she needs to be a new face. And we'll get to why they need new faces in the very next match. But this match is very friendly. Natalya's taken Liv to school, but Liv got a code breaker off of a slingshot. I love Liv Morgan's dropkick against the ropes. It looks good. I'm glad Natalya got a singles match at WrestleMania. The only time in her career she's had a match at WrestleMania, there have been at least 5 other people in the ring with her. She deserves a one-on-one match. She got rolled up with a body scissors for the pin. This was harmless. It got Liv a big win, or it got Liv a win on a big stage, and I'm okay with that, Warren.
And it's something that this is a match that she needed, that she required straight out of the gate when they brought her back, when they had her repackaged and decided to throw her into the marriage angle. This is exactly the match she needed, because we got to see Liv Morgan work. And guess what? She's a good worker. Sure, she had Natalya to help her along. Natalya is she's a solid performer. She can guide a match with ease. I don't care how much people dislike Natalya, her personality or her character that is extremely vanilla, has been very, very cooled down over the years. She can guide a match. This was fine and was necessary for Liv.
How about you, Alex?
Well, Natalya is a consummate professional. Like, that's the thing about her, is that she's always going to be very good in there, not make a lot of mistakes, and she's the perfect person to be working Liv Morgan, through this, a marquee match for Liv Morgan. My whole thing is that they brought in Liv Morgan doing those Emelina type vignettes, brought her in as the lesbian lover of Lana, then immediately dropped that completely said, well, that was a giant misstep. I don't know who talked to them about it, who made the decision to say, we never should have done that. Let's never speak of it again. And then they had Liv, which I thought was an interesting idea, get her right into a rivalry with Ruby Riott and or Sarah Logan. And that seems to have cooled off with, the fact that there's a lot less people on Raw than there normally are. So that storyline seems to have been one of the casualties of coronavirus in WWE.
It's like, why didn't they just do a triple threat match with the Riott Squad there? Like,
that could have been a thing. I don't know what Ruby or Sarah's travel situation is at that point. Like, who knows if they were even available to come to Orlando at that late date. I wonder if that might have been the plan had all the regular arena shows happened. Like, if there had not been this, if it had been a regular WrestleMania, they obviously probably would have had a big moment, a big spot in the Women's Battle Royal, and that would have been it. But instead, we get, hey, Liv Morgan gets a singles match and a singles match victory at WrestleMania. Who would have thought?
Then the NXT Women's Championship match, and I know a lot of people feel a lot of ways about this, and I feel a lot of different ways about this. Charlotte Flair defeated Rhea Ripley to win the title. God, the match ruled. The match was so good. Sean Murray says, Rhea and Charlotte ruled. Didn't need any Blue Chew for the Firefly Funhouse match. Boner City Bros. I guess he went 6 to midnight there. Swole Ricky said, happy Rhea put over that young and up-and-comer Charlotte. Big things in that woman's future. So, I mean, I get the cynicism about this, but if anybody has heard Rhea Ripley on the microphone over the last few months, whether it's her fault or WWE's fault, that was not the Rhea Ripley that got over. The Rhea Ripley we saw in the ring tonight, though, was, except when she kept going, really, Charlotte? Really, Charlotte? Okay, we get it. Cool. But after that, that was the Rhea Ripley that got over. And that Rhea Ripley we haven't seen much since December because she's only wrestled 2 or 3 times. Rhea Ripley did not get over by coming out and saying, you want to challenge Charlotte? Well, or saying, I'm the champion of NXT. No shit. That's...
Well, it's a good thing, Sean. She doesn't get to say that last one anymore.
She does not get to anymore.
So maybe that'll help build her back up.
Whatever they've decided to do with Rhea Ripley since December has been real weird, and I don't get it. And she is at the stage of her career where she needs a little guidance, probably, by the company that employs her. And it's weird that they didn't do that. Now, Charlotte being on NXT, I can think of far worse things than having one of the biggest stars of your show on NXT, and I don't know where this will go, but the match ruled. Like, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte went back and forth. The lack of crowd really added to this match, I thought, because when you get a limb worked over here, it's like you hear everything. You hear every grunt. You hear every cry. You see them lay it in. I love the transitions into soul food, the Boston Crab, the pin reversals. But then Flair applies a figure 8 and Ripley taps out. Warren, how did you feel the moment where you realized Rhea Ripley wasn't punching at the leg. She was giving a little tap, tap, taparoo.
I was like, huh, interesting. No, seriously, it was my reaction. It was like, okay, this is interesting. And honestly, they took the most interesting path here. They really, really did. This is the one where we're going to sit around for the next few minutes, and we're going to talk about what they're going to do with Charlotte over on NXT, because clearly this is the path that's going to happen. Charlotte is going to become a part of the women's division in NXT, and quite frankly, it's a smart move, because right now on main roster, Charlotte's been about everywhere with everyone. Bayley and Sasha are in a program right now. I appreciate WWE not going back to the Becky Charlotte well just yet either. What do you do then with Charlotte? What do you do up on main on Raw with Charlotte Flair? So that being said, it is very weird that they didn't take the opportunity to elevate Charlotte, as the super chat coyly pointed out a little earlier. It's very strange. But that being said, like you pointed out, Sean, this isn't the Rhea Ripley that we fell in love with at Survivor Series, at War Games. It ain't it. So if she goes through a bit of a re-education because of this event, I'm fine with it. And I'm fine with Charlotte Flair being a final boss on NXT as well, because right now Shayna's gone and they are clearly rebuilding the structure of the women's division by having the ladder match, by positioning new people into places of power, I guess. So you need someone strong there to be the final boss that you can achieve, that you need to overcome to become the top woman.
So we have several super chats about this, and like I understand making Charlotte the NXT champion, and you know, a lot of people can say, "Oh my gosh, that young up and comer Charlotte's one of the biggest stars in the company." Period. And she's going to be one of the biggest stars in the company if they have their way for like the next decade. It's not like she's retiring in a few months. Zach Barber says something needs to be done about Vince's unhealthy obsession with Charlotte. First Shayna, now Rhea. He's sacrificing NXT's best to put over Charlotte. Now, here's where I draw upon Alex. They lean very heavily into Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, Sasha. And not nearly as much into Sasha as the others for various reasons. But at some point, you have to make other people look like they are on the level of these people. And I mean very soon. Now, I fully expect one day a show-closing WrestleMania match to be those four women against each other in a title match. And it should be. That is one of the few like non-part-time main events that I think that they have right now. But at the same time, for an undercard match, it seemed so easy for Rhea to win because Charlotte isn't really hurt by this. She's bulletproof.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating because when you say like we have to make these other women besides the Four Horsewomen look on their equal, on their level, and for the entire match they did. Like Rhea looked like absolutely every bit Charlotte's equal through this match. She was aggressive. She didn't look small. Most women, when they face Charlotte, look small. Rhea doesn't look small standing next to Charlotte. That's a big plus, especially in people like Vince's book, who look at size as being like this major contributor to can you get over just by being big. That's a big plus. I loved the way this match was all laid out, but as soon as I realized that Charlotte hadn't put the figure four on yet, hadn't bridged the figure eight, I'm like, that's how this match is ending. So I about 2/3 of the way through the match, I knew what the finish was. And it sucked because I could see it coming a mile away, especially since they had Charlotte kick out of the Riptide like 3 minutes in.
Yeah,
now, I actually really liked that moment because Rhea didn't take it as, oh my God, I hit my finisher the one time I'm allowed to use it and you kicked out. That's it. What Rhea did was like, I had you. You know I had you. I'm going to put it on you again, and that time you're not going to kick out. I loved her confidence. That point where she drew a line, as Charlotte's on the outside, she drew a line on the ring. She said, come here, princess. Come back in. Cross this line. See
That's what gets her over.
Again, she did all of the things she needed to do to get back that edge. Everything was perfectly, wonderfully laid out to establish her as equal and say, hey, if you're not watching NXT, you need to, because this woman who just beat Charlotte is the champion there. And they said, instead, we're going to put the belt on Charlotte, quelle surprise. And that the idea of that is kind of ridiculous because, okay, great. Now we have Charlotte there. And do I think that Charlotte's there to hotshot the title back onto somebody else and then move back over to Raw? No. I feel like they're putting her there for a while, which means I don't need to see Charlotte run through my beloved NXT women's division. Anytime they get a new challenger, do they feed her to Charlotte for 6 months? I don't want to see that.
The unfortunate aspect of the NXT women's division is everybody has already been run through by Rhea. Like, that's the thing. Like, when they brought up Bianca,
I thought we haven't really gotten a great Io versus Rhea match.
Fair.
And I thought we were getting that, and it looks like perhaps we're going to get a Candice versus Charlotte match, which would be a great match.
Well, there's plenty to talk about on that still. Kiwi Rob says, in my opinion, I think it's a major backward step for Charlotte to go back to NXT. What do you guys think? I disagree. NXT is on the same cable network as Raw, prime time on Wednesday night. A lot of people will look at it like the ECW thing in 2006. The reason they put Kurt Angle on ECW then is because they wanted to increase the profile of that brand. And say what you want about Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair is a bigger star. And JJ Lee says, or actually, we had another super chat about that match that I'll get to, but I don't think that it was necessarily a terrible decision to put the title on Charlotte, but I do see why Rhea should have won. Like, you got to make these people seem as good as the horsewomen.
I mean, the problem is it's also coupled with the fact that Shayna lost her match to Becky in 8 minutes, looking like a goober doing it. Like, if you're not going to put over either Shayna or Rhea in your 2-night WrestleMania, you have the choice to put over one of the two. I'll give it. You don't have to put over both, but you got to put over one of the two. And Shayna looked like a goober, and Rhea put her heart and soul into it, and you still gave it to Charlotte, which is wrong or right, fair or not. The perception among a lot of fans is that Charlotte always gets preferential treatment. So whether or not the match was great, it's always going to look like to a certain subset of fans, like Charlotte just got something handed to her again. And that doesn't build a goodwill with some of your fans.
That's a part of the heat of Charlotte, though, is that she is the golden girl and not B. Arthur. JJ Lee says, I thought Rhea winning would establish NXT as equal to Raw or SmackDown, but maybe Charlotte does that. More interesting matchups and star power. Yeah, but I mean, they did that with Survivor Series. They went and made that whole thing an effort to do that. Anakin JMT says, was Charlotte winning a Vince or Triple H call? I don't know yet, but I'll find out. But, one of my favorite parts of this, Warren, do you know what one of my favorite parts of this match was?
Go right ahead. Tell me.
Good limb work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everybody loves good limb work, right?
Yes, Sean.
And you like for your limbs to work.
That is true, Sean.
But sometimes your limbs are dealing with a little bit of extra shrubbery. Sometimes they're a little too bushy. If your limb down there is just getting out of control, well, boy, are you in luck, because support for the Fightful podcast comes from the official electric razor of the UFC, Manscaped. Use that code Fightful. Remember, Manscaped, code Fightful. Have you ever had an awkward moment where you had to spar against somebody who had a full bush coming out of their singlet? Thankfully, Manscaped has everything you need to keep your package nice and tidy. That way, your limb work is crisp. Whether it's a full arena or an empty arena. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. And their top-notch ball trimmer called the Lawnmower 3.0 will keep you clean without nicks and cuts. You don't want your gimmick to be gigging down there. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be blading. Anybody watch New Jack's Dark Side of the Ring? Do you want your ball sack to look like New Jack's forehead? You don't want a mass transit incident on your nuts. And Manscaped has partnered with top-tier MMA athletes like Max Holloway, Francis Ngannou, and Brian Ortega. And these fighters know that hygiene is a priority within our sports. That's why this revolutionary company, Manscaped, has redesigned the electric trimmer and called it the Lawnmower 3.0. Not the 1.0, not the 2.0, the 3.0. It's got an LED light on this son of a bitch. It is nuts. MMA, wrestling fanatics, listen up. Don't use the same trimmer on your face that you're using on your balls or your forehead. If you're doing that, it's 2020. Stop blading, guys. The Lawnmower 3.0 comes inside their new Perfect Package 3.0, which makes you step up your grooming game. It's everything you need to keep trimmed, cut-free, and smelling nice down there. They have a plethora of wonderful products. Ball deodorant. If you're using deodorant everywhere else, why not on your nuts, too? Nobody wants to deal with your funky sack. Nobody. And let's be honest. You're spending a lot of time at home. Be good to your significant other. Speaking of smelling nice, you need to. The Perfect Package will also come with a pair of Manscaped boxer briefs that are not only comfy, but anti-chafing. You get 20% off plus free shipping when you use the code FIGHTFUL at Manscaped. That's FIGHTFUL at Manscaped. These products smell great. It smells good. We thank them for sponsoring us. Hit them up at Manscaped on Twitter and say, you know what? My balls stunk. They stank. They were stink, stank, stunk, whatever tense fits you. But they don't anymore because Sean Ross Sapp, Mr. Warren Hayes, and Alex Pawlowski explained to me the concept of making balls not smell. Anakin JMT says, who has the better reactions, Warren or Denise? I got to go with, it's different. I can't like pick a favorite. It's like picking a favorite child. I can't do that. Warren doesn't hide his reaction. Denise tries to, but you can just see it on her face.
I mean, look, let's just be honest. Talking about New Jack and being close to anybody's testicles is just completely hilarious to me.
Well, I mean, you'll be rocking with a New Jack once you take care of it. Anakin JMT says, shout out to the Lawnmower 3.0. And Rob Wilkins, no better way to transition into a birthday wish for Kristen Ashley. Good God, what are we doing here? Come on. Happy birthday to Kristen, friend of Fightful. Happy birthday. Like, you could have at least waited until midnight Eastern to do that. That way there was some distance in between these two. Oh, boy. Aleister Black defeated Bobby Lashley. Warren, this was a Raw Hour 2 match. We did not need to see this. But I'm happy we did just because Lashley's wearing tights now and he looks great in them.
Yeah, but also and yes. I mean, there's nothing more to add. And honestly, if you've seen Aleister Black's squash matches recently where the guy always ends up like running into a black mass, well, you've seen it. It's basically been a setup. Good for Aleister getting a big WrestleMania singles win. There you go.
Yeah, this match is notable only for the fact that Aleister apparently, like back in December, went to somebody and said, "Can you build me the horniest vest possible?" And those things were like up. They started at his shoulders and they went up to like the top of his head. When he's sitting there in the ring post, like it's like they're like up here touching his
right
the side of his head, and he had that thing built, and it came to him, and like he ordered it, and they finally made it, and it showed up like last week, and he was like, "I gotta wear this shit in an empty arena."
He didn't order it. He called up Damian Demento and he said, "Hey, do you have anything? You hanging around your closet that you could just send my way?"
This match was Bobby Lashley working over Aleister Black until an Acai moonsault. That's like, it felt like the only thing that Black got in. And then he counters a spear with Black Mass and wins. Lana yells a little bit.
Because he was going to do the Dominator and to finish off Aleister. Yeah. And then Lana says, "No! Spear him!"
Great manager.
Why she had to do it that way? It's an empty arena, Lana. You can just say it in like a normal throated voice, and he'll hear you. And Lashley's like, "Oh, okay, I'll do that. Thanks, sweetheart."
So it's funny you mentioned that because that segues into our next segment, Otis defeating Dolph Ziggler. But when they called back to Friday, Sonya telling Mandy in a completely normal, like, "Hey, listen, I would never do this to you." That hit harder to me because she wasn't like, "I would never do this to you. I would never." So, night 2, guys, I thought had a lot more matches that needed a crowd than night 1, and this was one of them. Rob Wilkins says, "Very emotional about Otis, gives big guys like me the courage I need. Otis tonight was my John Cena. I'll never give up, Otis." And, man, it is heartbreaking that this didn't have a crowd. And the irony is that so much of this angle played out backstage, not around a crowd, but the culmination needed to be there. They had Ziggler resort to shouting the same insults that Mandy did last year. "You will never be me! You will never look like me!" And I'm like, all right, cool. Otis looks like he's never going to be at a Poison concert. Damn. Damn.
I just love the idea of Dolph believing that everyone wants to look like him. Like, if Otis wanted to look like Dolph, he probably would eat differently and shave his face. But he doesn't. Like, it's a weird thing to yell at somebody when you're a grown man.
It really, really is. This match was fine. Ziggler connected with a big drop kick and was in control until a catapult, but Otis started to mow down Ziggler, hit a pop-up World's Strongest Slam, and Sonya caused the distraction, which, I don't know, is a little more offensive with no crowd, and I don't know why, but it is. And Ziggler kicks Otis in the balls. Mandy comes out and attacks Sonya and low blows Ziggler, which Warren would have gotten a big pop in front of 70,000, and that sucks.
And this is the match. This is the match that needed it. This was that because it wasn't about the work rate here, Japanese wrestling fans. It wasn't about that at all. This was about the story. This was about the payoff, and everything had to happen within the. Could you imagine, like, the entire match? People would have been shouting Otis's name the entire time. The crazy pop when Mandy would have come out, slapped Sonya to begin with, and then, are you kidding me? This is the match that needed the audience, needed that reaction. It would have been a WrestleMania moment to have 70,000 people watching Otis up on their feet screaming while he's making out with Mandy, holding her in his arms. But really, it's like, it would have been fantastic to be playing that for WrestleMania packages for years and years and years. But I mean, it's in this bubble of this story here, this is what had to happen. It's the perfect outcome. My favorite part of this match was when Dolph Ziggler low blowed Otis from behind. It made a sound, Sean, Alex. It made a sound. And when they hit the replay, I made it my job to double check to make sure that, because I was like, okay, Dolph slapped his knee when he did it. He didn't. He didn't. That slap was all Otis ass. It was fantastic. And I said it last night, and I'm going to hammer it home tonight. Now, moving forward, what they have to do with this angle is get Sonya over as Queen Bitch. She has to become the most evil woman in the entire women's roster. They have the story. They have the setup. Now she has to be evil. That's how they're going to make this really, really be an ultimate payoff, getting someone else over.
Warren, at the same time, you and I both tweeted tonight this was the people's main event. And it was a bit heartbreaking because I didn't even realize it at the moment. It's like, well, it needed the people real bad. This needed the people. Like, I saw all these things, and I'm just like, damn, this is one of them I kind of wish they would have punted on for a little while until they had people.
I know. And just to hammer that home, I put out a stupid tweet saying, like, you know, this is the greatest love story of all time. Dude, it's blowing up. Like, I have hundreds of likes on it and retweets, and it's a stupid tweet, but people really got behind this angle.
They did.
It needed the people to finish it off. I'm sorry.
Alex, how'd you feel about this one?
Well, I've never been high on this angle. Like, if you watch Sour Graps, I'm like, it's fine. I just don't understand what the thing about it is that everybody loves so much. Like, it's okay. Again, it's one of those things where, like, Mandy was, like, awful to everyone. And all of a sudden, because Otis is sweet on her, now we like her. But she didn't change. Nothing about her changed. There was no life event that precipitated her being nice now. She would just, like we talked about, she used to insult Nikki Cross and say she looked like a turkey.
Are you sour shaming her, Alex?
I
You,
think
of
he
all
is.
people, are sour shaming Mandy Rose. Check
I'm
out
actually-
Sour Graps on Fightful Select twice a week, reviewing Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah. The other thing is they were always going to split up the old Absolution, Fire and Desire, and have one of them be heel, one of them be face. It's so perfectly Vince that it's the gorgeous blonde who had been a terrible bully to everybody, who's now babyface, and the raven-haired lesbian is evil. Like, that's okay, great.
What, can gay people
fine.
not be evil? What the hell?
No. But it's if that's the only representation you have on your roster, then it becomes there's no other thing for anyone to identify with who is that themselves. And that when from talking to people who are in that group, they don't love it when the only person on the show that they watch is the evil gay person. It doesn't make them feel good. So I'm just saying there's options, and they picked
that's
one.
not fair. They also have Jake Atlas, who is apparently a jobber. So,
And I love you, Alex. You know I do.
Yeah.
And I don't say this very often, but you know what? In regards to this angle, I was right. And Sean can attest to this.
Yeah.
Sean can attest to this. When we started talking about this angle, I went on record and I said this is going to get Otis over. And Sean sat in his chair and went, but
did.
hey.
I thought it was Phineas, Godwin, and Sonny, and it's much better. And thank God, because I mean, Sonny was more over than anybody in this, but I mean, Otis, it got Otis over big time. Walter sends a super chat to say, Sonya de Evil. Get it? De Evil. Sam Batty says, listen to your podcast every week. Never caught one live. It's 4 a.m. in England. Keep up the good work. Hey, we appreciate you so much. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe. All that stuff helps people like that aren't watching us live see us more. Commenting after the fact also helps us. All that stuff goes a long way. So thank you, those of you in other countries who have tuned in. Kristen Ashley sends a test super chat for Throwback. If Throwback wants me to ask a question, tell him to just send me one, and I'll ask it. That guy has sent us so many super chats that it's ridiculous. And Zachary Schimmel sends a monster super chat. Big thank you to him. He says, because it's Fightful, I discovered you all on WrestleMania. You all can actually see some of Zach's retro reviews with me on Fightful Select, and he asks, would Alex ever do a retro review? We've had some people asking if you'd do retro reviews or Q&As. So maybe we'll do that.
I'm thinking about it. Apparently, I got to watch this Big Show and do something about that. So we're going to do something crazy.
So for those of you,
man,
for those of you who aren't hip to it, I'm trying to think of content for you guys every weekend. That way there's a feature. And I was like, well, I want to do a free preview show for Sour Graps. Let's have Alex review the Big Show sitcom because the trailer looks horrible.
Oh, awful.
Zach Schimmel says, I've done a retro review with Sean and Warren. I support Sean Warren and Alex and everyone except for that cheater Melissa. I'm going to grow my hair out over this quarantine and challenge Melissa. for the Fightful Championship. Definitely not segments that we had in the can 6 months ago or anything. They're definitely going to be new. Stay tuned. The day of reckoning is coming. Rob Gronkowski defeated Mojo Rawley to win the 24/7 title. I'm okay with this. Gronk is ridiculous, but a bunch of dorks chase Mojo Rawley out to the ring, and I call them a bunch of dorks because I don't know who they are. Not because I don't know the names of people on the roster, Alex, but because the camera shook so much, I could not identify any of them except for the model-looking fellow with the oversized pecs and the braided hair, and I don't know his name.
I just love like I guess all these people live at the PC.
Yes.
These are all these PC kids, and they just live there in the locker room, and so it's okay. They didn't actually have to fly in or anything. They just hang out. They're just living there in the cafeteria.
Man, so Gronk had said earlier he wanted to win the title, so he jumps off the NXT platform and onto all the dorks and wins the title, hits the bricks. Warren, did you feel any certain kind of way about this?
I fully endorse the new 24/7 champion Ron Gronkowski. Hope his reign is long and fruitful and bountiful as well.
I think Anna used to call him Gronkowski or something.
Yeah.
Back in the day, because we've been talking Gronk for quite a while, it seems like.
She was so confused when he single-handedly won the Battle Royal that one WrestleMania. He was like, who am I supposed to know who this is? It was great.
I think that's when we nicknamed her Sport Lord Anna Bauer.
Yes, Sport Lord.
We miss Anna. I'm supposed to do some shows with Anna soon, so I'll do a little trade. I'll be like, hey, Anna, I'll do one of your shows if you do one of mine. So you'll probably see Anna back on Fightful very soon. I said off the air that WWE issued a stay-at-home order for this Edge-Randy Orton match and single-handedly defeated COVID-19. This match was so goddamn long that everyone stayed home and the virus was just eradicated.
It was a quarantine match.
It was. It was. This thing took so long. I had tweeted during a part of this, the highlights of this are going to be really good. And here's the thing. 20 minutes in, I was like, this isn't a good match. 30 minutes in, I was like, this would be a good match if it were shorter. And then 35 minutes in, I thought, man, this would have been a great match if they crammed the best parts into 15 minutes, Warren. They didn't do that.
Yeah, this is my assessment as well, and I'll even go one further. I don't even know if, probably a setup with an audience would have been very, very differently. Right, would have been very, very different. I don't know how much of an audience could have saved this match really if they had laid it out in the same way. But then again, probably not. So it's a moot point. I'm immediately contradicting myself. Thank you for coming, everyone. But otherwise, yeah, it was really, really long. And I loved the finish. I thought the finish was magnificent and just played into their story really well. But at some point I was like, okay, are they going to go down the route where, Ciampa and Gargano a couple of weeks ago busted up the Performance Center?
Anakin JMT
it's our
just
turn
sent a
now.
super chat. Sorry to interrupt, but he just sent a super chat that said Gargano and Ciampa did more with less at the PC. How do you feel about that?
I agree. It was much more dramatic. There was stuff being broken and there was glass shattering. Yeah, I completely agree. But again, right up until we got to like that, I wouldn't even say the final third. I'd say like the final 20% of the match where it really started to coalesce and the drama started to pick up. But otherwise, it took a hell of a long time to get to that point. And like I said, if the audience had been there, they probably would have put it together differently. But this was like, hey, let's have a guided tour of the PC.
Chris Polehill said, do you think Edge and Randy Orton is a match of the year candidate? I don't know if that's sarcastic, but not by a mile. It probably wasn't even a match of the hour candidate. I would have
Because it was the only match that happened during that
it was the only one. It's like how I'm going to tell everybody that I matched the attendance for WrestleMania 36. I was Time Person of the Year in 2008, all that good stuff. So here's some of the highlights. Randy Orton out of nowhere with an RKO, posing as a cameraman, hits another RKO, cracks Edge with a camera. They went into the weight room. I could have done without the entire weight room.
And they like 4 minutes into the match, they did the unintentional Benoit homage, hanging somebody from the exercise equipment. I was like, nobody after you shot that said, "Hey, can we cut that?" That's probably not, because they just did the thing on Vice, on the back side of the ring. Could we, people are gonna obviously notice the parallels. I know you guys didn't mean it that way, but we're just not going to show it. And they're like, no, put it up there. It'll be great. And then Edge does the thing with Randy in the chair, and he flings his crotch at him.
The seated senton. It was bad.
I believe that's called the flying crotch body.
Yeah, we call that the dickhole driver where I'm from. Yeah. Anyway, Orton tries to hit Edge with a ham sled, and Edge gets sent off the barricade, into the barricade off the stage. There weren't a lot of bumps being taken, and I'm okay with that. Because, Edge, the funny thing is I watched Edge's 24 today, and he's like, I'm not going to be going off of ladders through tables. He did! He did!
He's a liar.
I assume that it ruled, but I couldn't tell because the camera shake. Yeah. And somebody said, oh, well, it would have made the pad too obvious if that were the case. Okay, they taped this.
Yeah.
Make it not obvious then.
Yeah.
Or don't do it.
Yeah.
Commentary was maybe the killer of this.
Oh my God.
I think it was.
I bust Ian Riccaboni's balls, and he doesn't do it as much anymore on ROH shows, and I think he's an awesome commentator. But when I hear people calling big matches, and they're like, an Edge, how's he going to get up from this? And I'm like, do you give a shit? Because it doesn't sound like it.
It felt like at least we know how Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton would call the Masters.
Mm-hmm. What's he going to do here, Byron? I think he's going to get 3 wood.
That's too exciting. What you just did was too exciting and fast-paced.
Yeah.
You know what moment that it dawned on me that Tom was snoozing through this, that he had obviously had a little too much NyQuil, is when we got that first big spot, the flying elbow off the platform by Edge, and he completely undersold it. Anyone else, Michael Cole, Morrow, hell, I'll even go as far as to say Big Joseph, would be screaming. It was like, my God. There was barely anything. And I really do believe it was a detriment to the match. It was ridiculous.
I think they could have went completely without the weight room. They could have. I like the hallway spot because they ran into the cameraman. That was fun.
That was cool.
They could have cut all the fighting next to the truck significantly. It should have just been all this. They should have went straight from the ring to the back. They do the spot, or they go through the boardroom really quickly. They go through the hall really quickly. Table spot, DDT on the truck. Then you go to the finish. Yeah. Everything else, this should have been 15 minutes.
Before I started working for Fightful, before I decided to not work in offices anymore, I spent some time in conference rooms. Never seen chain link fence on the ceiling. Never seen it. I don't know if it's a thing that they do at the PC, just always there, but it was very handy for Edge to do this weird spot where he dropped an elbow from 7 inches above Randy. That was awesome.
When you go into the conference room, it's like you're going into Hell in a Cell, man. There's no way you're getting out of this meeting. But that being said, I liked the production of this. I liked how the camera people had to not always, but had to catch up sometimes to the event when they were moving from environment to environment. There was like a bit of a, we got to catch up. I like that. It was a nice, subtle little touch that felt a little more spontaneous.
I won't read Andy Quigley's comment, but it was so funny that I had to at least reference it. It's worth looking at in the live chat. Christian Burden said WWE had 100 ladders and approximately 0 Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy didn't fit into this WrestleMania. He didn't fit in at all. Anakin says, Rusev made it onto WrestleMania after all. on the Clash of Champions 2017 poster in the hallway.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, I like the draping DDT. I like the spear and the RKO on top of the truck. The top of the truck, I dug.
That was all good.
But this should have been highlights all along the way. This should have been...
Yeah. I love the finish. The finish with Edge saying, "Don't you effing count." Like, no. He's not done yet. And having to fight through tears to put down his best friend, who we will see tomorrow night on Raw. Like, I feel like that's it's too much. Like, the idea, I love the idea of, like, I have to murder this guy to end this. But, and then, like, the ref sliding in immediately, looking at the giant, like, concave skull and be like, you okay? You okay? Okay, 1, 2, 3. It was just like, it was over. At that point, it was over.
I want to say bless WWE for at least over, like, maybe the last 9-10 months, trusting some of the best wrestlers in the world to do things that they'd be like, oh, no, you can't do a pile driver or a concerto ever, even though, I don't know, you invented a concerto. I'm glad that they're finally doing that. Big thank you to Nicolay Gemp for the super chat. If you have a question, send it. Same with Tim Traver. Thank you very much. This went way too long. Way too long. Like I said, 15, 17 minutes in the ring, towards the side, hallway, boardroom. Then you go right to the big spots in the finish. That's all we needed. I want a fan cut of this match. Like, I want somebody to put together like a really condensed version of this where it looks like that's how it was intended. And I bet I would like this match. We get a super chat saying, with Edge winning tonight, other than Seth, who would be perfect for Edge to face at SummerSlam? Daniel Bryan, maybe. The entire WWE landscape just changed with Braun and Drew at the helm. An amazing 2 nights. The thing is, I think it's Seth. I think it has to be Seth, because Edge, the character, is not going to forget that this man held his neck down with a foot. But if we had to say somebody besides Seth, Alex, who do you think?
Well, Edge has said in an interview he wants AJ Styles. Like, that's a match that needs to happen. Like, that's a match he never thought he could have had when he retired, but he'd always been a huge fan of AJ, and like, hey, why not? I mean, they had that little moment in the Royal Rumble that injured AJ for a little bit, so you could pump that into something. I don't know. I thought, I could definitely see that. But yeah, I do think Seth makes the most sense storyline wise. We might not have to wait for SummerSlam. They're already promoting Money in the Bank happening in a month. Like, so yeah. Okay.
So a little scoopski that Fightful reported last year. He wants to face Aleister Black and said that at a Q&A I was a part of. Hilarious aspect of that Q&A, though. This is in like April, May of last year. And at the Q&A, some guy in the crowd goes, oh, would you guys ever think about going to AEW? And everybody in the crowd's like, what a moron. They can't wrestle. Why would Edge or Christian go to AEW? And then he revealed today, oh, yeah, I had talks with AEW. Like 6 months later. So that was fun. I actually posted the Q&A video and audio up on youtube.com/Fightful. So if you guys ever want to check that out, go ahead and do that. Now, going long isn't necessarily bad. Finishing strong isn't necessarily bad. Swinging through the air with your crotch flying at somebody's face isn't necessarily bad. But let's talk about the next match. Raw Tag Team Championship. Street Profits successfully defend against Austin Theory and Angel Garza to retain the titles. Now, as this match happened, I was like, did we need this match? Because I don't think we really did until the end. To cover a couple of super chats, Anakin says, Warren, will we ever get Sasha Bailey? The correct answer is SummerSlam. They're saving it for SummerSlam every year.
Every year it's saved for SummerSlam. Yeah. I'm more hopeful tonight than I've been in a long time, but listen, I don't know anymore. And Sometimes you read stuff about WWE and Bruce Pritchard recently saying that, back in the 90s, they would purposefully do the opposite of what the fans wanted,
95 was a great year, right?
95 was a fantastic year. So, sometimes I try not to let the cynicism overtake me. I always try to go in with fresh eyes and being hopeful, but sometimes I do feel there is a contempt, and there is something so fantastic in Sasha and Bayley that the trigger should have been pulled 18 months ago, and we're still waiting. But hey, I'm still hoping for it. Yep.
King Junie says, what happens first, Sasha versus Bayley or Habib versus Tony? Oh God, Sasha Bayley. Poor Tony Ferguson. But this was a short match. Austin Theory hit a TKO. Ford landed a frog splash and won. Angelo was a little slow in this match, but Austin and Angel beat down the Street Profits. Zelina gets her kick in, and Bianca Belair shows up. And this, if this happened in front of 70,000 people like it should have, and it breaks my heart for her that it didn't, this would make me think, okay, she's on Raw tomorrow night. And that's the assumption I'm going to operate on here, Alex. Yeah. And that's good, because I like the idea of Montez Ford and Bianca being close to each other. You want to talk about a superstar act in the waiting. Two people, and either one of them can go, and they know they can go. Yep. And they're going to hype each other up. Yep. Damn.
Yeah, I
can't wait to see how they fuck it up in WWE.
No, it's gonna be so bad. It really is gonna be terrible. But we can dream. Something that I could dream about is like, are we thinking Austin Theory's like getting the call up, or is this like just a one-timey deal? I hope it's only one-timey deal because of the fact that they were like, hey, we're going to start this long feud where you're going to overcome Tyler Breeze over the course of 2 months. Whoopsie daisy, you're on Raw now. Like, I hope that's not the case, because it would be just what they would normally do. But if this was Andrade, Garza, and Zelina, that trio versus the trio of Dawkins and Ford and Bianca Belair, where Bianca's just going to murder Zelina every time she gets her hands on her, taking off her earrings one at a time, murder her, put her earrings back on. Like, I'm so here for all of this. And yes, this is great. Bianca deserves to be in a spot where she can be a shining superstar, because that's what she is.
The thing I don't like is all these people come up from NXT right after they lost their way out. Bianca spent the last year and a half or so not winning the NXT title.
Yeah. And
really, she should be like, oh, hey, that's the successor to Becky Lynch. Not necessarily successor. That's the person, Becky.
Yeah.
That should be Becky's Ollie Frazier type of thing. Yeah. That's what that should be. Now, with her appearing there, that leads you to think, she probably ain't winning that ladder match, Warren. Anakin asks who's the favorite to win the ladder match, and remember to face Charlotte, because that's the thing. Bianca could be going to Raw, but I could see them being like, you know what? Bianca and Charlotte, that's a big one. But I could also see Vince saying, that's a WrestleMania match, pal. So there's a lot of things going right there.
There's a lot of things happening, but the ladder match has fantastic women in there. I have trouble seeing anyone else but Io Shirai coming out of that ladder match. Alex is going no, but they're booking Charlotte pure heel right now. Like Io Shirai has so much edge to her. I just feel like Candice LeRae is the perfect foil to Charlotte, because she's so bubbly and so positive, and Charlotte be like, what are you even here for? You're not worth my time. Io Shirai is like just her yelling at Charlotte in Japanese. I would love to see that, but I just don't feel like they normally book that way. I hope you're right, Warren. I want to see that match. I feel like they're definitely doing Candice, which I wouldn't mind seeing either. Look, we stand for Candice in Warren Hayes HQ, right? So I have no issues with her going over, but I really feel the more interesting match, the more interesting feud is a little bit of clash of styles. And if you're going to run heel versus heel, or, Charlotte can do the tweener thing. I'm not ready to call her a full-on heel. I never was, really. She can, and if there's a place that you can run the tweener feud, it's NXT. Full Sail will gobble this up.
Sure.
As people reminded me, Bianca is not in the ladder match. I'm so used to her being in every top contender match and title situation. Slipped my mind. My apologies. Titus O'Neil then takes over hosting for Gronk, but then we get the SmackDown Women's Championship match, and I thought it was a really good match. Bayley defeated Lacey Evans, Sasha Banks, Naomi, and Tamina to retain the title. Xantheus says, was this the biggest pop Tamina's ever gotten?
You're mean. You're mean.
That's funny because it's true.
They all pin her. There was a neat merry-go-round spot with everyone but Tamina, or else I get the feeling that would have been a few takes. I love Bayley outside the ring responding to Michael Cole.
That was my favorite moment of either night, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, so good.
Bayley is a verbally hilarious heel.
Yes. Just the idea that Michael Cole says, "Oh, the Boss and Bayley almost got pinned at the same time," which obviously they didn't. And in my mind, I said, no, they didn't. And Bayley, a split second later, says, "No, we didn't." Because she's right there and can hear Michael Cole obviously talking to her. That's so great. So great.
Bayley and Sasha, or everybody beat Tamina. Bayley and Sasha double teamed Naomi. Sasha submitted her. Lacey kicked out of like everything tonight. It was like a little bit too much, even, especially the 2-person pins. Anybody that watches my show know I don't like people not kicking out of shit that they easily should be able to, and I also don't like people kicking out of stuff where they really shouldn't have any chance to. But Bayley accidentally knees Sasha in the head, and Sasha and Bayley argued a little bit, but Bayley saved her. But Lacey still knocked Sasha out with a women's right. And Lacey and Bayley had like a really good match of their own. Lacey has gotten way better. And let me tell you, when it comes to laying shit in, Lacey's all right with that by the looks of it. She had some nasty kicks, those Tom Phillips specials in the corner that hit. Like those looked really good. Bayley with some crisp knees. I love the spot where Lacey got tied up in the tag ropes. That's honestly a spot that I expected to see out of the Revival a long time ago. But then Sasha pops up, hits a backstabber on Lacey, and Bayley wins with the Rose Plant. I really like this match, Warren. Like, to that point of the night, outside of Rhea and Charlotte, that was probably my favorite match.
I agree. I absolutely concur. This was really good. It got time to grow, though, Sean, and this is something that we have to underscore. It was given time because they could have easily said, "You got 7 minutes," and then it just would have been a cluster to get to the finish. I loved it. I thought it ruled. Everyone worked their parts perfectly. I thought Naomi had another great offensive showing again tonight. Did a couple of really cool reversals. I was very impressed with Bayley's knees tonight. Her strikes were really, really good. And yeah, I mean, color me surprised to have seen Lacey Evans and Bayley have a good moment together in this match. Of course, we touched on it a little bit. I'm a little irked that they're not leaning harder into the Sasha Bayley stuff, but the seeds are there because Bayley at some point, when Lacey does woman right Sasha down, Bayley is clearly conscious and she's leaning up against the bottom rope and she's looking at the pin and she chooses not to go save her friend. So again, they're just planting seeds, and eventually this is all going to explode. And maybe I feel, and we're going to talk about it in a while, maybe we're going to get to a point where WWE is going to start rewarding longtime viewers, and this would be the feud to do it because there are so many side glances and off the cuff comments to each other, being semi passive aggressive with each other throughout the past 18 months that there's something really, really substantial that you could build here. And I will finish this by saying all the women's matches this weekend ruled. All 4 of them. They were all good. Were outside of the finish of the Becky Shayna match, the match was good. The tag team titles was really good. This was really good. Sasha Rhea was really good. The women brought it the entire weekend.
Alex, any thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I've never made it any kind of secret. I don't love the Lacey character at all. I think that it's been wildly inconsistent and at best and offensive at worst. But like, you can't keep pushing her as this amazing super baby face who can't be beat, and then she then have her get beat all the time. Like, it's a weird thing that they do, where like, we'll just have her we'll say she's amazing, and then we'll have her lose the big matches, which will engender sympathy, so they'll like her even more. And then when she finally does win, it won't have been too late, and they'll be so ecstatic for it. And I feel like you can't just keep pushing her and getting in positions where you're telling us she's hot, she's ready to win, and then you choose to have her lose. And eventually, it's not going to work anymore. I mean, for those the fans who do love her. But I am certainly here for as much Sasha and Bayley stuff as you can give us. If you want to like hotshot that and have them do their one-on-one match at Money in the Bank on May 10th that they say they are doing, then do it then. Because I don't trust you to do it at SummerSlam or at next WrestleMania or whenever. Do it whenever you can. Get it done.
This match should have happened at WrestleMania 2 years ago.
Yes, it should have. Yes, It should have.
So, Alex, you talked about being hot for the finish, things not working anymore. Warren, you said everybody worked their parts really well. There was time to grow. There wasn't a cluster to the finish. And you know what? Sometimes you do have time to grow, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you got to get it done quick. And sometimes your parts just aren't working like they used to. Sometimes they are. Sometimes you're really hot for that finish. You don't want it to be a cluster. And I agree that on all your points there. So we're going to talk about the Fiend John Cena match, the Firefly Funhouse match. But Rantaro says Sasha should be a heel, Bayley should be a face. We'll see. I want to see how this unfolds. Andrew Stark says, will there be an NXT women's or men's Money in the Bank match? There wasn't one planned as of like when crowds were still around. I don't know how that will change. Teron Riddick says, early picks for Money in the Bank, when and if it happens. Mine are Seth for the men, Sasha for the women. Sasha can cash in on Bayley. Seth can go after Drew. I like both of those ideas, Warren.
Yes, I am definitely behind. I'm definitely behind Sasha getting a Money in the Bank. Seth, though? Seth? I don't know. I feel it's still we're still getting some breathing room from his title reign. Look, if Samoa Joe is healthy, I could go for that. Joe's a guy that you can flip heel babyface. Well, clearly babyface works really well. If Drew is still your champion, you can flip him heel, and that wouldn't be an issue either. Although then again, there's another title shot that Joe would probably not earn. Yeah. I'd probably go or former WWE champion Jinder Mahal.
Honestly, I don't hate that idea. I don't. He's got history with Drew McIntyre. He's been gone for a year, and they beat him and jobbed him so hard. I don't want to see those matches. I really don't, unless it's Claymore pin. But, I mean, you can get some programming out of that. Both guys face Heath Slater on an episode of Raw. Drew's a little bit nicer to him than Jinder is. You could work that pretty easy. We've got a bunch of super chats for the Firefly Funhouse match. Rex Joseph Calmarin says, Firefly Funhouse was a masterpiece. That was for wrestling fans with all the callbacks in history, standing ovation. I love that they rewarded longtime viewers. Nicolay Gimp says, hi from Greece. The Wyatt stuff was amazing if you're high. Cena to AEW confirmed. I don't know what the last part meant, but I agree. If you smoked one, probably even better. Anakin JMT said, did the Firefly Funhouse top the Boneyard match? I enjoyed the Boneyard match in a much different way than this, Alex. And you covered a lot of Lucha Undergrounds. That's why I threw to you first.
Yeah. No, Boneyard match was a lot of fun. What I loved about it is that it did not take itself seriously.
Yes.
It was AJ Styles fighting Biker Taker in a graveyard with a bunch of druids who came out of a backlit barn for some reason. There was nut shots. And there was one point where Taker like teleported out of a grave to behind AJ Styles. AJ Styles died with his hand and frozen up above the dirt. Like that was great. And it was an entirely different thing than what Firefly Funhouse was. Somebody I was talking to on Twitter says it wasn't really a match. And yeah, you know what? That guy's right. It wasn't really a match. What it was some of the most creative storytelling, and like they had John Cena recognize his own crippling hubris while beating up a stuffed pig. Like anything that does that transcends any other kind of match, whether it be in a boneyard or not, to me.
Yeah. A reminder, donate a super chat, any amount. If you're watching live, we'll read your question or statement on the air. You can also subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. That's our premium service. I do a Q&A there every week. Maybe we can get Alex or Warren to do one in the future too. Vary it up a little bit, but you can ask as many questions as you want. Lots of cool stuff at FightfulSelect.com. That's the most direct way to support us, and you're going to get a lot of exclusive news. Like I said, I did that story today about several wrestlers pushing for the return of the pile driver to WWE. King Junie said, my kids know who John Cena is and wanted to watch this one match. They were so confused and scared. I love it. Thanks all at Fightful, and stay safe. Thank you. That's the thing. You had a lot of people that, quite frankly, know John Cena as actor John Cena, and they got actor John Cena, but they also got a history lesson about what John Cena was before. JJ Lee says, loved Mania. Bray sold me, man. WWE should go cinematic with everything, sell tickets to the arena, and seat them theater style. I'm in. I don't think they could do that. I do think they could do this every once in a while. I was saying off the air to Warren and Alex, like when people were like, oh, they couldn't do this all the time with a live crowd. They couldn't do this very often. And I'm like, they stopped giving a shit about the live crowd a long time ago. They actively troll the live crowd when they come to somebody's hometown very often. But the Firefly Funhouse was wild, guys. This was another cinematic match. Cena sees a Vince McMahon puppet in the Funhouse that's recounting the Ruthless Aggression promo, and Bray Wyatt plays off of that. He is Kurt Angle, and Warren Cena is out in his 2002 gear, and I'm like, bro, why aren't you wearing that gear all the time? He looked like $1 million.
Doesn't he? And not only was he out there in the gear, Sean, the fist was there. They pulled out the SmackDown fist. And I think I marked out more for the SmackDown fist than Cena's gear. What a wild way to start. And honestly, the thing is that as wild as I thought this was, to see them reenacting this and Bray Wyatt doing the Kurt Angle's parts and then going off into his own promo where he's like, this is your, this is where you failed. This was the beginning of your failure, John, so on and so forth. It got wilder. It just got deeper, and the references were crisper and more, in fact, magnificent. You know how they say, or I don't know if they say, but hell is a place where you relive all your failures.
Yeah.
John Cena was in hell this entire situation.
And I mean, if you're living your own personal hell and you're reliving all your failures and you feel like you haven't been effective in the last few years, you feel like you're getting every opportunity and you're just blowing it, well, then you might be Bray Wyatt, or at least that's what John Cena says. This is after the Saturday night main event themed thing where Cena vigorously lifts weights. Instead, we get a Thugonomics John Cena. And Alex, I got to say, the line, you're a slut for opportunity. You're blowing every chance. Ooh.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing that I loved about
Speaking to the mic.
Here's the thing that I loved about it. Was Bray Wyatt's response to that? Just sitting there, taking in all the insults and saying, "But John, what you do is like this is not. You're not a good person.
Yes.
Like these insults that you find somebody's weak points and you jab at them. Like, why would you like? I think you should think more about like how you treat people. This is not a good what you do." And it was like it cut him to the quick. And I was like, this is John Cena like recognizing all of the terrible stuff that he's done as John Cena, as the guy that he says Bray Wyatt is, the most overprivileged, overhyped, like guy who got all the opportunities when he never deserved them guy. He's realizing the guy he's been talking about is himself. That's friggin' amazing.
Yeah. It's good storytelling. And
so, like beyond good storytelling.
And Alex, well, really all three of us have been covering Raw and SmackDown long enough to know that really up until the turn of this year, WWE actively punished you for paying attention to the show, especially if you paid attention long term. They've gotten a lot better at that in 2020. It's going to be almost impossible to completely shore it up, but this match was a real good one. Now, there's some stuff that didn't make sense, like Wyatt parroting Eric Bischoff and Cena popping up in an NWO shirt, but, I mean, how many times do people, especially in John Cena's twilight, do they compare him to Hulk Hogan and say, when's that turn coming?
Yeah.
And I, honestly, I think the parallel wasn't all that far off, because this was Hulk Hogan, creative control era, WCW doing whatever he wants. I don't think the parallel was all that bizarre. I was like, oh, this is okay. This is actually kind of clever.
And that's the thing. I think that Cena is smart enough to work all this stuff in his real interviews, in his TV interviews, because you always hear him talk about how he wants to help the future, but he knows more than anybody that, like, it's up to Vince. It's up to Vince. So when he says stuff like, people keep blowing every opportunity and WWE doesn't have a front man, well, that's their fault. And he knows that.
Yeah.
He knows that he was given the ball like that. We see the Vince McMahon puppet even pop up and say, it's such good shit. That is amazingly self-aware.
Oh, it's so self-aware.
And there was a point where the old Bray Wyatt was in the house. The more I recap this, the more I like it. And a thing that I had completely missed was when Cena in his 2002 gear went to slap Bray Wyatt, Bray dodged it and sang Nikki Bella's theme song.
Yep. Touch. Oh, so good.
John Cena signed off on that. Good,
yes, he did.
Good job, John
good
Cena.
Yes.
Man, she just announced her pregnancy.
Yeah, like he says, but right before he says that, like he says, this is the site of your greatest failure. And I thought he meant losing his big match to Kurt Angle, but that's not his greatest failure. His greatest failure is proposing to Nikki Bella in the ring at WrestleMania and not following through with it and getting like that's his biggest failure of his life. And for John to recognize that, yes, that is, and say, yes, Bray, you can tell me that at WrestleMania. Honestly, like, seriously, props to John Cena for being that self-aware and that okay with himself to do that.
Could you all imagine if the last 7 months of Bray Wyatt booking was just completely different?
Yes.
And the whole thing, if he never challenged for a title and therefore never had to lose any title matches, and it was just him, pardon my language, guys, fucking with people.
Man. Imagine if we had Bray Wyatt here tonight doing that type of shit to Bill Goldberg, because there's a couple of things that you can screw around with Goldberg as well.
Here's the thing. Goldberg would never sign off on it.
He would never.
He's way too self-serious. That's the thing I love about Cena, is Cena recognizes that part of him, that was this larger than life mythos that was built around him, and he knows it's all bullshit.
What's the last WrestleMania moment John Cena had that will be as memorable as this? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Because people aren't going to positively remember him beating Rusev or Wyatt or getting crushed by Undertaker in 2 minutes.
Yeah, he shows up because he's going to buy a ticket and sit at ringside because he doesn't
I think
have a
one of the
match.
stats was over 4 years he was advertised for like one match for a while. Like it was really weird. So Cena attacks Wyatt. Now this is after they do a callback to Cena not hitting Wyatt with a chair.
Oh man, when he actually swung the chair and Wyatt disappeared, that was so beautiful.
Perfect.
So
Man.
good. So good. And then he attacks Bray and beats him up until he realizes he's not beating up Bray. He's beating up Huskus.
Somebody sends a super chat and says they called him Johnny Large Meat. Did he?
Yes.
And then the person says, "You know what to do." I ain't doing it. But the puppet, is getting beaten up, and the Fiend appears. He uses Cena's own words against him about being the most overhyped star, and Fiend wins with Wyatt counting the 3. When I recap it, I like it even more. Because the thing about pro wrestling, and I'll kick to Warren with this one, when something different happens, we have been conditioned to watch the same old shit so long that we're immediately like, is this wrong? Is this wrong? And we've heard all these interviews of all these old heads say, well, I gotta do it like that. Why would they do it? Why not do it like this? And again, I'll say it again, feel bad for Matt Hardy right now. Feel real bad for Matt Hardy right now. But how do you feel about this?
The completely astounding thing here is that WWE decided to go this way. And look, ratings aren't going up. Attendance is not going up. We're clinging to a formula of wrestling that has been tried and true, sure, but isn't getting the new viewers in all that much. So why not experiment? Why not try some stuff out? And why should it not be WWE? Mega company that has the airtime to drop stuff once in a while and just throw things at the wall and see if they stick. I mean, they do it enough with gimmicks, just like one-offs. Why not go a little deeper into this? Why not try a little more? I believe, especially seeing the reactions tonight, that a younger audience, a newer audience would be interested in this kind of content. Not saying every week, not saying 3 hours of Monday Night Raw cinematic style, because then we'd probably get bored of that. But still, variety is good. Representation is good. Trying different things out is good, and that's how the business advances.
We got a super chat from Malik Black asking if Anderson died on the roof when Taker blew it up. I don't think so. David Gould says, best line of trash talk from either night. Oh, I think the Usos or Jimmy, I think it was Jimmy Uso. He was real good to the point to where me and Alex were like, let's mic him up ringside.
Yep.
I just really love that. Big thank you to Sonny Feliciano for the generous super chat. He says, Fightful, I love you guys. Never stop. I've been here since day one, and you guys always deliver. Thank you for another night. Hey, thank you. I want to specifically thank all of you who tweeted at Team YouTube on Twitter. YouTube's messed with us for quite a while, and at the help of WWE and DAZN and all that stuff, but I want to thank all of you guys who let it be known that you guys want to be able to find our podcasts, because they took us out of subscriptions. They banned our channel before, banned our live streaming twice. Like, it's been a mess over the last 6 months, but I want to thank you guys that stuck with us. Main event, Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar. The in-ring main events for WrestleMania, like, collectively were a couple minutes. And hey, you know what? I'm okay with that sometimes. But an average of like 3 minutes, 15 seconds, you don't want to average 3 minutes, 15 seconds for your big finish, if you know what I'm saying. But that's what these two main events did. I thought Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar was way too much like Braun Strowman versus Bill Goldberg.
It was an identical match.
It was an identical match, and I would be thrilled if we didn't see this type of match for quite a while. And let me tell you, I don't just want to see pound, 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 done, go home. You got to finesse it. You got to add a little bit. You can't go so short all the time. But that's what these guys did. Claymore right out of the gate. Drew McIntyre missed the second. Gets suplexed. A few more suplexes, as is tradition. But we get an F5, and Drew kicks out at 1. That was definitely designed for a crowd pop, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, Malcolm Bivens wasn't back there listening to Next on his CD player going, yeah! That wasn't happening. F5 and a 2 count, a third and a 2 count. So Paul Heyman wisely just says, keep doing it. Keep doing it.
That was great.
Go with what brought you to the dance, but what brought you to the dance doesn't always work, and sometimes you got to switch it up, and that's when Blue Chew is here to help you. Oh my God. If it's same old shit for you, go above and beyond. Make a WrestleMania moment, whether it's in the ring or in the bedroom, but Blue Chew's going to help you with the latter. Let's be honest, you don't need to be going to the doctor's office or the pharmacy in this environment. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door. Blue Chew affiliated physicians prescribe it. That way you don't have to go wait in line at the pharmacy. And it's got the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so if you're using that, you should probably just switch and, I don't know, not get sick. Because you don't want to miss out your special moment. You'll be in the bedroom, and you'll be doing this. You'll be pointing, and that's like you pointing at the lights. You're like, turn them on. I want you to see this. I want you to see what's about to go down. Whew, boy. Hey, if you want to get cinematic with it, you're setting up your tripod and your camera there. You're running back the history of your relationship, assuming it's a long-term relationship. I don't know. It can be a one-night stand. I'm not here to judge how you use your Blue Chew. You can do some callbacks and some comebacks, if you know what I'm saying. BlueChew.com. It's a chewable, so it gets into your system a lot faster. It's ready when you are. And if you're not ready, boy, will it get you there. BlueChew.com, code FIGHTFUL. Get your first shipment free. Just pay $5 shipping. Hit them up at Blue Chew. Let them know you heard about them from us. Damn! Drew McIntyre counters the fourth, hits 3 claymores, and wins. I'm done with this kind of match, Warren.
This is when you play WWF Royal Rumble on the Sega Genesis, and you spam the big moves. This was essentially it, and you're lucky enough to get them in. This was essentially it, and like you and Alex pointed out, this was exactly the same match as last night. Just finishers. I mean,
it was cool the first 6 times I saw it.
Yeah, exactly, and maybe it would have been made better with an audience losing their mind when Drew kicked out of the F5 at 1. But other than that, happy for Drew McIntyre. Glad they're moving in this direction. This feels like a new chapter moving forward. Don't get me wrong, but not much to talk about here.
Throwback 27 says Drew and Braun in 2 nights changed the landscape of WWE with 2 hardworking guys. Drew deserves this. Now, who do you think they face at SummerSlam? From our boy Throwback. We appreciate you, buddy. Alex, who do you got these two? I mean, there's a long way to go before that, but you know the WWE formula. Right after WrestleMania, you face somebody who doesn't stand a chance and probably shouldn't be in the title picture. Baron Corbin, Lacey Evans. I mean, British Bulldog after the 96 Michaels win. Kane after the 04 Benoit win. Kane after the Daniel Bryan win. They'd love to go to that well.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, as far as SummerSlam goes, I don't think they're going to be able to resist screwing up the amazing thing they found tonight with The Fiend. I think you got The Fiend versus Braun. I think that's a thing that's definitely going to happen if Braun still got the title. Because they have history, I like that they have history and they can dwell on it. But if it's just going to be, Bray popping up from power slams and then winning the match in a red light, then I don't want to see that, but I feel like they might do that. And over on the other side, I do think they're going to be grooming even though he lost the Mania match, I think they'll be grooming Seth, the Monday Night Messiah, to go after babyface Drew McIntyre. I think that's definitely in the cards here at some point during 2020.
I'd say Bobby Lashley. They got to do that push, that huge push with the marriage angle has to pay off, man. Come on.
Oh, man. So this was WrestleMania 36. I liked night one a lot more than night two, but all things considered, I like two nights a whole lot better than one night. I felt like I was getting away with something by being done with work by midnight last night. I was like looking around like, what am I missing? Even UFC pay-per-view night, it's like 4 a.m. WrestleMania, sometimes it's 5. So this was pretty wild. I want to thank you guys for being here. Leave a thumbs up and subscribe. I'm going to have a special podcast this week where I review a lot of the WWE Network content. But Fightful Select is the most direct way to support us. But FightfulWrestling.com is how you can check out all of our wrestling stuff. We have a Facebook. We have Instagram. We have a freaking Pinterest, for the love of God. We got everything. So there's no way that you won't be able to keep track of what we do. Alex, let the people know what you do.
I do reviews of Raw and SmackDown every week. I might do a special that encapsulates both the premiere of the Big Show, where I'll probably talk about how terrible it was, and I might go like in depth on this Firefly Funhouse match and how amazing it was and all the history behind it and what it took to like all the symbolism and how it's basically just like a Greek tragedy. So we'll see. I also like stuff. I don't just hate stuff.
Guys, if you want to help out Fightful as well, I do a lot of video interviews and just interviews in general. Show those some love. Companies will step up and offer us more. I interviewed Kofi Kingston on Friday. He talked about getting into a fight with Vince, him having a variety of WrestleMania roles, and whether or not he and CM Punk kept in touch. I've got a bunch of indie interviews dropping this month. I had a bunch of Impact interviews drop last month, and next month is ECW month on Fightful, where we have a different ECW interview every week, leading to a special edition of Making a Finisher with Rob Van Dam talking about the Van Terminator. But Mr. Warren Hayes, he joins us on Wednesdays and Fridays. Let the people know where they can find you.
Over on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Go on over there. Give it a bit of a subscription. I do a weekly wrestling recap show every Thursday night, recorded live, 9 p.m. I'm also on podcast platforms just about everywhere. So we're going to have a lot to talk about this week for damn sure. So go check me out and follow me on Twitter as well at Mr. Warren Hayes.
For LJN fans, or really any wrestling toy fans, Jimmy Van, the founder of Fightful.com, has an awesome hour-long interview with Doug Stanhope of LJN coming tomorrow publicly. It's already up on Select. It is very, very good. Jimmy Van has the most wide collection of LJN figures in the world. I'm going to post that video separately as well, showing that off, but that's worth a watch. You can check out our news show every Wednesday. The times vary because of the situation we're in. Also, check out Joe Hulbert and Jeremy Lambert's Distraction podcast. I want to thank Joe for all the hard work he did on the features recently. I want to thank Jeremy Lambert, Carlos Toro, Robert DeFelice for their great news coverage they've done. The hard work that they do allows the hard work that I do in getting exclusives and stuff like that. I want to thank David Tees for his coverage, and I want to thank all of you for being here. It is very important. We could not do this without you guys here, and you all are important to me. If there's some type of coverage that you guys want to see, let me know. If there's not enough demand, we will do it. Until next time, guys, we're out.